If you like the story, you can support the author on Patreon. Link is in the description.
Chapter 1, Prologue. Important notes. Hey everyone. Future 805 here. For those of you who know me, I am putting up another fanfic. Thankfully, I actually finished my last FIC this time. First one I actually gave an official completed ending. Strangely enough, I decided to yet again write an MHA FIC for the second time. I had 2 written drafts between DC and MHA. You can check out the DC one on my Patreon. I have only posted 2 chapters and they are completely free to read. First and foremost, for those who dislike system novels. The system in this story has only one purpose and will promptly leave after completing said purpose in Chapter 5. Second, this fanfic takes place after U.S.J, just before events of the sports festival. 3. If you are a Naruto fan who is coming in with grand expectations of power fantasy, make a U-turn by the back button, thank you very much. Face with tears of joy, face with tears of joy. Just kidding. But seriously, this isn't a power fantasy. Read for yourself and hopefully, you'll see what I mean. If there is anything else I need to clarify, I guess I'll just edit the prologue. Which is what I am doing right now. For those of you who don't know and will probably never know, I did a rewrite of this FIC, but that's of little importance now, and it's just so when you see old readers mentioning a thing or two, you won't be confused. Now for those who are coming in newly, do not expect an overly competent MC. In fact, he is kinda slow to pick things up sometimes. I am trying to set him up as a believable teenager with impulses and wrong decisions at times. It's not anything major that will get him killed or something like that, but you get the idea. Do not come expecting an Aizen, Itaki, or Batman level planning character. Do not expect a guy who doesn't make some awkward life choices that you may or may not find annoying. I am not saying the MC is lame. Just read and figure out for yourself. I am not perfect and I know I can't satisfy everybody. Bye for now. Chapter 1, Wrong Game. The General Studies classroom at UA High School buzzed with quiet energy, the kind that came from too many bright minds packed into one room, each convinced they deserved to be in the hero course instead. Yuta Akutami sat in the middle row, slouched back in his chair with the kind of lazy confidence that suggested he either had everything figured out or had given up entirely. His blue-gray eyes drifted over his classmates. Tanaka was scrolling through Hero News on his tablet, Kimura was sketching costume concepts in the margin of his notes, and Mrs. Nakamura was already done with class for the day and was kind enough to let the class devolve into controlled chatter. 2 others were in a heated whisper debate about who would win in a quirkless fight, Gang Orca or All Might. I'm telling you, if they're both quirkless, Gang Orca's got the physique advantage, Sato insisted, tapping his desk for emphasis. You're insane. All Might's American training regimen would turn him into a tank, Yamamoto shot back. Yuta snorted softly, amusement tugging at the corner of his mouth. If only they knew All Might's been running on borrowed time and sheer willpower for years. That was the thing about being a transmigrator, or rather, a reincarnator with awakened memories. Everyone around him was living their lives normally while he sat there with spoilers for the next 3 years of their existence. It was like watching a movie you'd already seen, except the characters were real people and the plot involved actual life or death stakes. Still better than my old life, he mused, twirling his pen. At least this world has superpowers and... Ping! The sound echoed inside his head like a notification bell, causing him to nearly drop his pen. System reboot complete. User recognized, Yuta Akutami. Dimensional transfer status, checking. Yuta's eyes widened slightly. He glanced around the classroom, but everyone was still absorbed in their own activities. The system interface was apparently visible only to him. Finally decided to show up. Hey, he thought, keeping his expression neutral. Only took you a week after I got my memories back. Welcome to the Naruto universe. Beginning initial power allocation. Error. Error. Incorrect world detected. Host has reincarnated into My Hero Academia universe. Processing. Oops. Yuta's pen stopped spinning. His smile slowly faded. Oops. He whispered under his breath. Kimura, who was sitting nearby, glanced over. You say something, Yuta. Just commenting on the beautiful symphony of intellectual discourse happening around us, Yuta replied smoothly, gesturing toward the Gang Orca debate which had somehow evolved into arm wrestling. Truly, we are the future of heroism. Kimura chuckled and turned back to his sketch. All right, System, Yuta thought, his internal voice taking on a dangerous edge. Start explaining. Right. Now Initial destination was Naruto World according to your reincarnation application, but due to a clerical routing error in the omniversal placement, you've been misplaced. Misplaced. I'm not a lost package, We prefer the term cosmic detour. You're about to prefer the term cosmic lawsuit. And who the hell is we, Well. Hold on. I don't even wanna know System, you were the one who asked. I had everything planned out. Chakra nature training, sage mode, maybe snag a tailed beast or two. And now you're telling me I'm stuck in a world where the main character breaks his bones every time he throws a punch, Again, deeply sorry for the inconvenience. But good news. You still have access to your Naruto gaming account. We can transfer over up to one ability to compensate for the error. Yuta's eye twitched. Around him, the classroom noise seemed to fade as his focus sharpened. One ability? Maybe two, if you don't file a complaint. Oh. So I can complain, hey, Calm down. Before we do something we'll regret. You mean before I do something you'll regret? Let's talk about this. It isn't as bad as it seems. Listen here, you glitched excuse for cosmic customer service, Yuta thought, his mental voice dripping with the kind of cheerful menace that made people nervous. You screwed up my entire reincarnation. I was supposed to wake up in a world where I could learn jutsu, befriend giant chakra monsters, bag a few sexy assassins, ride a chakra Gundam and maybe prevent a few wars. Instead, I'm in a world where the number one hero is slowly dying, the main character is a self-destructive green-haired kid, and the current number 2 hero has serious daddy issues Yuta had never been much of a My Hero fan. He hadn't even watched much of it. Was it an awesome franchise? Perhaps, no doubt. But every kid who grew in the days of the Big Four had dreams. 1. To wield a Zanpakuto. 2. To unleash Conqueror's Haki. 3. To fire a Kamehameha. 4. To have an armored Susanoo. Which was why when he found that ridiculous Transmigrator ad on his laptop while playing his old Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm game at 2 AM in his university dorm, he had filled it in despite regarding it as an absurdity. And what would you know, it actually worked. Those are surprisingly accurate character assessments. And that's not even mentioning the fact that my mother, my actual, loving, hard-working mother in this world, got crippled by some serial killer with a katana complex just 1 week ago. The system interface flickered, as if uncertain. I had no control over local world events. 5 abilities, Yuta thought firmly. I want 5 abilities from my account, or I'm going to find a way to hack into whatever cosmic network you're running on and leave such a scathing review that you'll never transfer another soul again. That's not how the system works. Try me. I've got nothing but time and spite right now. The interface went quiet for a long moment. 3 powers, and you only get to pick from the playable characters you have already unlocked at your last save progress state. Yuta's smile faded. Thinking it through, he had only unlocked up to Chapter 5 in the game, which was up to the Hebai arc. The unlocked characters at that point were Naruto, Sakura, Kakashi, Sasori, Might Guy, Rock Lee, Deidara, Sasuke, Haiden, Kakuzu, and Itachi. Naruto didn't have Sage Mode, Rinnegan Nagato hadn't appeared yet, and the truly god-tier powers like Flying Raijin, Edo Tensei and the likes were nowhere to be found. After all, he had only downloaded the game to play out of nostalgia and hadn't taken it seriously. If I had known, I would have played Boruto Shinobi Striker. He clicked his tongue with squinted eyes. 4 abilities. Negotiation accepted. 4 powers allowed. Choose wisely. That's more like it. Before Yuta could respond, the sharp ring of the class bell cut through the air. Nakamura-sensei closed her attendance tablet with a sigh. All right, that's enough for today. I expect your essays on quirk classification by Monday. Dismissed. Finally. Tanaka groaned, stretching his arms. I thought she'd keep us another hour. Bro, it's literally 3 p.m., Yamamoto said. Exactly. Child labor hours. The group laughed as Yuta slung his bag over his shoulder. Guess even at the best school in Japan, everyone counts down the clock. He grabbed his bag and the notepad he'd been absent-mindedly scribbling potential power combinations in during class. I'll choose later, he decided. First, let me see what kind of world I'm really dealing with. He let the flood of students carry him toward the door, but instead of heading toward the General Studies wing, he took a detour toward the Hero Course section. He had a feeling he was about to witness something interesting. Dash. The hallway leading to Class 1A was packed. Yuta leaned against the wall, watching the scene unfold with the detached interest of someone who'd read the script in advance. At least 50 students had gathered outside the door, their voices creating a low buzz of excitement and anticipation. Think they're really as impressive as the news made them out to be? Someone whispered. They survived a villain attack, another student replied. That's gotta count for something. I heard one of them has an explosion quirk. Probably thinks he's hot shit. Yuta grinned. If only you knew. The door to Class 1A slid open with a soft whoosh. Bakugo Katsuki stepped out, and Yuta had to admit the guy had presence. Even without knowing his personality, you could tell from his posture and expression that he was someone who'd never backed down from a fight in his life. Unfortunately, he was also someone who'd apparently never learned the concept of situational awareness. They're scoping out the competition, simple-minded fools, Bakugo said, his voice carrying that distinctive blend of arrogance and irritation that made him so uniquely unlikable. At least now you know what a future pro looks like. Oh, here it comes, Yuta thought, his grin widening. Now move it, extras. The crowd exploded. Extras. Who does this guy think he is? Someone's got an ego problem. Yuta watched Bakugo's expression shift from smug superiority to confused annoyance as the crowd pressed closer, their voices rising in indignation. Classic Bakugo, Yuta mused. All the tactical awareness of a rabid honey badger. Wow, he said, just loud enough for the students near him to hear. And here I thought UA students were supposed to be smart. Guy just united half the school against Class 1A in a single sentence. A few students turned toward him, and Yuta flashed them his most charming smile. I mean, strategically speaking, it's almost impressive. Like watching someone speedrun making enemies. One of the students, a girl with a plant-based quirk, judging by the small flowers in her hair, giggled despite herself. That's, actually kind of accurate, she admitted. More students were turning toward him now, and Yuta could see some of the anger in the crowd shifting toward amusement. Asterisk, there we go. Crisis management through comedy. Gojo would be proud. Asterisk. In the distance, he could see a purple-haired student, Shinsu, if he remembered correctly, approaching the crowd with the kind of confident stride that suggested he was about to make the situation infinitely more interesting. Time to go, Yuta decided. I've got a hospital visit to make. He pushed away from the wall and headed down the corridor, leaving the crowd behind. As he walked, he pulled out his phone and checked the time. Asterisk 2:47 p.m. Visiting hours end at 8. That gives me plenty of time to see Mom and figure out what I'm going to do about everything. Asterisk. His hand unconsciously moved to his pocket, where he kept his mother's hospital card. The one that reminded him every day that this world wasn't just a story anymore. It was real. And it was personal. Chapter 2: Wake Up to Reality. The smell hit Yuta the moment the doors slid open. Sharp disinfectant, wax, and that faint metallic dryness hospitals couldn't ever quite hide. He let the scent settle. It still made his stomach tighten, though he'd been walking these floors every day for a week. He crossed the lobby toward the elevator, shoulders slouched, backpack hanging a little too heavy for a single textbook. Someone coughed. A baby cried. The fluorescent lights hummed like they had somewhere else to be. The elevator doors opened. He stepped in and watched the floor numbers climb. A week ago, he'd been worrying about midterms and whether his quirk would ever amount to anything. Then his mother was attacked. Then his old memories flooded back. Then the so-called system dropped into his life like a junk mail subscription he couldn't unsubscribe from. The doors opened again. 3rd floor. He slipped out, nodding at the nurses who already recognized him. Afternoon, Yuta-kun, Nurse Akira called. Your mother's been restless today. Dangerous news, Yuta said. Did she start another revolution? Close. She tried to organize a wheelchair race. Did she win? Akira gave him a flat, betrayed look. By a lot. Sounds right. He continued to room 312 and tapped his knuckles on the door frame. Come in, his mother's voice called. Yuta entered and felt that small kick in his chest he tried not to examine too closely. Aiko Akutami sat propped up in bed, her laptop perched on the rolling table. Her hair was in a half-committed bun, dark strands escaping every which way. Her pajamas were bright yellow and covered in cartoon lemons, too cheerful for a hospital room, which was probably why she wore them. Her legs were still wrapped and braced. He looked at them for half a second too long before he forced his eyes up. "Working on the novel?" he asked. "Almost finished," she said, same as she had said for the past 3 years. "You're early. Shouldn't you be in class?" "I was. Then I wasn't." He pulled the chair closer. "Someone has to supervise you. These nurses can't handle you." "Oh please." Mrs. Takahashi challenged me. I simply accepted. And destroyed her. Aiko grinned. Yuta let himself grin back. They talked. School gossip. Hospital gossip. Small things. Harmless things. He acted like everything was fine, and she let him. But every now and then between the laughs, between her updates about her mystery plot, he felt his mind drag back to the alley. To the man who put her here. To the name he kept trying not to say in front of her. Stain. Her smile faded a little as she watched him drift. "You're thinking too hard again," she murmured. Yuta blinked out of it. "Just, stuff. Talk to me." He hesitated. Then, before he could stop himself, "Do you ever wish you could get back at someone who hurt you?" That wiped the lightness out of her face immediately. Not fear, more like concern, she was too polite to voice. "That's a heavy question," she said carefully. "I'm a heavy guy. Dense. Like a star." She didn't smile at the joke, not fully. She folded her hands instead. "I think revenge eats the person who holds it," she said. "Even if they think they're right. Even if the other person deserves it. Especially then." Yuta exhaled, long and slow. "Just wondering." She watched him closely. Too closely. "Yuta, you're not planning to?" "No. Nothing." He waved it off. "Just a weird thought. Blame lunchtime philosophy." She let it go, but reluctantly. "Well. My answer stands." They talked again, lighter topics. When visiting hours wound down, Yuta kissed her forehead, dodged her attempt to lecture him about attendance, and stepped into the hallway. His smile fell the instant the door clicked behind him. The elevator ride was quiet. Too quiet. He walked home on autopilot, cutting through side streets he didn't remember choosing. His apartment building loomed plain concrete, peeling paint, decent neighbors. Inside, the silence felt heavier than the air in the hospital. His mother's glasses. Her mug. Her blanket. That domestic debris of 2 people living together now reduced to 1 person moving around them like they were ghosts. He grabbed an energy drink, cracked it open, and sat at the kitchen table. He didn't drink right away. He stared at the can until the condensation ran down his fingers. She wasn't dead. He reminded himself of that every day. But she was hurt. Because some self-righteous fanatic decided she didn't measure up to his personal brand of heroism. Yuta took a drink. The artificial sweetness stuck to his tongue. He thought about Stain. About the canon timeline. About Hosu, still weeks away. About Ingenium's fate. About how all of it was barreling toward him like a train he could see but couldn't slow down. His grip tightened. The can collapsed with a crack. "Great," he muttered, flicking droplets of sticky liquid off his hand. He tossed the can in the sink and stared at the mess on the table for a few seconds before moving to clean it. Revenge wasn't heroic. Heroes didn't stalk villains through back alleys. Heroes didn't plan ambushes. But Yuta wasn't a hero. He wiped the counter until it was mostly dry, then leaned against the sink and looked out the dark window. His reflection looked back tired, angry, a little hollow around the eyes. He didn't know yet what he would do when Hosu came. Only that he couldn't pretend he had no part to play anymore. Hospital room 312. Aiko closed her laptop. She hadn't typed more than a dozen words since Yuta left. His question lingered in her mind like a bruise she hadn't realized she'd gotten. Revenge. A 15-year-old shouldn't be chewing on ideas like that. She wished he'd spend his time with friends, or worrying about school, or doing anything other than carrying her weight on his shoulders. A knock. She glanced up. "Come in." Someone stepped inside, broad shoulders, white and blue armor, exhaust pipes along the arms. The helmet remained on, but she recognized the posture even before the voice. Ingenium. she said, startled. I didn't expect. Ms. Akutami, he said, apologetic but steady. Sorry for coming this late. He sat down in the same chair Yuta had occupied that afternoon. It made her chest tighten. I wanted to speak with you about Stain, he said quietly. She went still. I read the police report, he continued. But I need more than that. Anything you remember. Even things you didn't think were important. Aiko swallowed. She saw something in his posture, bone-deep tension held together by discipline. The same kind of thing she'd seen in so many heroes who'd lost someone. The same thing she feared she might one day see in her son. He's hunting Stain too, she thought. Just like Yuta. She felt suddenly tired. All right, she murmured. Ask. Start from the beginning, he said. Whatever you can remember. Aiko exhaled slowly, bracing herself. It was raining, she said. I was finishing my patrol when I heard someone call for help. Chapter 3 The Powers I Pick. Yuta's room wasn't small, but it wasn't massive either. Just enough space for a bed, a desk, and the crushing weight of life-altering decisions. He'd been sitting there for 2 hours, staring at the notepad in his lap, trying to decide which 4 abilities would keep him alive long enough to kill the hero killer. So many options. The system interface floated in front of him, translucent and glowing faintly blue. He'd pulled up Kakashi's ability list first, seemed like the safe choice. Copy ninja. 1,000 techniques. Should be a gold mine, right? 5 minutes later, his enthusiasm had died a quiet death. What the hell is this? He muttered, scrolling through technique after technique. Mud wall jutsu? Water clone? Generic fireball number 7. Most of it was filler. Techniques Kakashi had copied once and never used again because they were objectively worse than just stabbing someone with Chidori. No wonder he only used like 5 moves in the entire series. Still, buried in the list were gems. Sharingan. Shadow clones. Raise Nan. The good stuff. Yuta leaned back, rubbing his eyes. Okay. Let's be smart about this. What do I actually need? He grabbed his pen and started writing. Problems I need to solve. Stain is faster than me. Stain can paralyze me if he draws blood. I have 0 combat experience. My quirk is useless in a fight. I need to avoid getting caught by heroes/police. What I need. Speed/perception, to not get stabbed. Durability, in case I do get stabbed. Offense, to actually win. Stamina, because I'm not All Might. He tapped the pen against his teeth, thinking. Sharingan solves perception. Shadow clones give me numbers and training efficiency. Raise Nan is raw damage. And if I can get something for durability. His eyes drifted to one name on the list. Haiden. The immortal Akatsuki member who'd survived decapitation and spent the rest of the series as a talking head in a hole. Perfect. All right, Yuta said aloud, pulling up the selection interface. I've decided. The system panel shifted, text reformatting into a clean input screen. Please input your 4 abilities. Kakashi's Kamui Mangekyo Sharingan. Itachi's Tsukuyomi Mangekyo Sharingan. Naruto's 9 Tails Chakra. Haiden's immortal body. He sat back, satisfied. Let's see Stain try to kill someone who literally can't die. Error. Error. Selection rejected. Please reselect abilities. Yuta's smile evaporated. What? Error. Error. Please reselect. I heard you the first time. He shot upright, glaring at the interface. What the hell is wrong with my choices? Multiple errors detected in ability selection. What errors? Be specific. Double choices framed into one. Twice. Yuta blinked. Hey. Selected abilities Kakashi's Kamui Mangekyo Sharingan and Itachi's Tsukuyomi Mangekyo Sharingan are 4 abilities disguised as 2 choices. Silence. Yuta stared at the screen for a solid 10 seconds before letting out a groan that could have woken the neighbors. How? He dragged a hand down his face. Explain. In detail. Like I'm 5. Each Mangekyo Sharingan selection consists of 2 abilities. 1. The Mangekyo Sharingan itself, base dojutsu. 2. The unique pupil technique, Kamui, Tsukuyomi, etc. Yuta's eye twitched. Aren't they the same thing? Incorrect. The Mangekyo Sharingan is the Uchiha clan's strongest dojutsu. It grants enhanced perception, genjutsu resistance, precognition, and the Suzanu. The pupil techniques Kamui, Tsukuyomi, Amaterasu, etc. are separate abilities that manifest based on the user's deepest desires. They are called the Eye of the Soul for this reason. While two users may awaken the same base dojutsu, their techniques differ based on individual trauma and desire. Therefore, Mangekyo Sharingan equals 2 slots. Kamui equals 1 slot. Tsukuyomi equals 1 slot. Your current selection uses all 4 slots. Yuda's hands clenched into fists. So you're telling me, if I take both Kamui and Tsukuyomi, I don't get anything else? Correct. And if I take just the Mangekyo Sharingan without the techniques? You will awaken your own unique pupil techniques based on your subconscious desires. Yuda froze. My own techniques? That was either the best news he'd heard all week or a complete disaster waiting to happen. On one hand, custom abilities tailored specifically to what he needed most. On the other hand, he had no idea what those would be. Kamui was a guaranteed space-time technique. Tsukuyomi was a guaranteed mind-breaking torture dimension. Both were proven, documented, reliable. But his own techniques? What if I awaken something useless? His mind raced. What do I want most right now? Curing his mother's paralysis? That might give him some kind of healing ability useful, but not exactly combat-oriented. Killing Stain? That could manifest as Amaterasu or something equally destructive. But what if it manifested as something weirdly specific, like the ability to sense people with murderous intent or some niche garbage? Shin Uchiha awakened the ability to control objects he marked with his Sharingan, Yuda thought grimly. And that guy was fucking useless. He sat there for a long moment, pen hovering over the notepad. Finally, he exhaled. Remove the pupil techniques. Confirm removal of Kamui and Tsukuyomi. Yet. He clenched his jaw. I'll gamble on whatever I awaken. It wasn't confidence. It was necessity. Because the other two abilities Nine-Tails Chakra and Haiden's Immortality were non-negotiable. Without the Nine-Tails Chakra reserves, activating the Mangekyo would drain him dry in minutes. He'd be another Kakashi, collapsing after 2 uses. And without Haiden's Immortality, using the Mangekyo would slowly blind him. Every activation brought him closer to permanent darkness. I need both. No matter what. The interface updated. Current selection. Mangekyo Sharingan, left eye. Mangekyo Sharingan, right eye. Nine-Tails Chakra. Haiden's immortal body. Yuda stared at the list. Something felt wrong. Wait. His eyes narrowed, suddenly realizing, are you telling me, each individual Mangekyo Sharingan takes up a slot? Correct. He pressed his palms against his eyes. Of course. Of fucking course. Fine. Fine. He took a breath. 2 Mangekyo Sharingan. Nine-Tails Chakra. Haiden's Immortality. 4 slots. Finalize. Error. Error. Selection rejected. Please reselect abilities. Fuck. Yuda shot off the bed, fists clenched, voice cracking with frustration. What now? What the fuck is wrong this time? Multiple errors detected in ability selection. What's wrong with the Sharingan now? Nothing is wrong with the Sharingan. Then. Error detected in Nine-Tails Chakra selection. Yuda froze, chest heaving. What? Nine-Tails Chakra cannot be directly selected. Why not? Tailed Beast Chakra is not a standalone ability. It is a byproduct of hosting a tailed beast. Yuda's blood ran cold. What does that mean? To possess Nine-Tails Chakra, you must first have the Nine Tails sealed inside you. So. I need to use a slot for the Nine Tails itself. Incorrect. Then what? To have a tailed beast sealed inside you, you must first possess the sealing technique required to contain it. Yuda's mouth went dry. The 4-symbol seal. Correct. Revised requirement. 4-symbol seal, 1 slot. Nine-Tails Baijiu, 1 slot. Result, access to Nine-Tails Chakra. That's 2 slots just to get the chakra. Correct. And wait. A horrible realization crept over him. If I take the Nine Tails, it'll act exactly like it did in the series, won't it? Correct. The Nine Tails will retain its personality, memories, and hostility. So I'd have a giant demon fox sealed inside me that hates my guts and will try to take over my body every chance it gets. Correct. Yuta sat back down on the bed. Slowly. This is a nightmare. He stared at the interface for a long time. Then, voice hollow, he said, remove Nine Tails chakra. Selection removed. He rubbed his face. Okay. Okay. 2 Sharingan. Haiden's immortality. That's 3 slots. I still have 1 left. I can work with this. He pulled up the list again, scrolling through abilities. Shadow clones. Raise Nan. No darn Sage mode. Wait, does that need a prerequisite too? Before he could check, another thought hit him. System. Yes. Haiden's immortality. Is there a problem with that one too? Silence. Then. Yes. Yuta closed his eyes. Of course there is. Haiden's immortality is granted by the Jashin religion. It is not an inherent ability. Let me guess. Yuta's voice was flat. I need to use a slot to bring Jashin into this universe. Correct. He sat there. Just sat. This is fine, he thought distantly. Everything is fine. I'm not having a breakdown. This is fine. System. Yes. If I choose Haiden's immortality, does Jashin show up as, like, an actual god? Or is it just the blessing? Jashin will manifest as a localized divine entity within this universe. You will be its first and likely only worshipper. So I'd have to, what, pray? Make sacrifices. Jashin requires ritualistic killing to maintain your immortality. Yuta laughed. It wasn't a happy sound. So my options are. He held up his fingers, counting. 1. Take the 9 tails and hope it doesn't eat my soul. 2. Bring an evil god into the My Hero world and become a serial killer to stay immortal. 3. Give up on both and just, fucking wing it with whatever's left. Those are accurate assessments. Yuta looked at the ceiling. Mom's in the hospital because of a serial killer. And I was about to become one myself. He exhaled slowly. Remove Haiden's immortality. Selection removed. The interface now showed. Current selection. Mangekyo Sharingan, 1 slot. Mangekyo Sharingan, 1 slot. Empty, 1 slot. Empty, 1 slot. Yuta stared at it for a long time. Then he stood, walked to his desk, and pulled out a fresh sheet of paper. Okay, he thought. Let's start over. What can I actually use? Chapter 4 selection complete. Yuta sat there, staring at his empty slots, feeling like he'd just lost a negotiation with a vending machine. Okay. What's actually left? He pulled out a fresh sheet of paper and started listing. Available abilities. Shadow clones, versatility, training boost. Chidori, assassination technique, needs Sharingan. Raise Nan, raw power, hard to learn without good chakra control. Chakra enhanced strength, close combat buff. Shadow possession, crowd control. Palm immortal technique, healing. 8 inner gates, taijutsu. Various nature releases, elemental jutsu. He stared at the list. None of this solves my core problem. I need chakra to use the Sharingan so it doesn't drain me dry. The 9 tails chakra was important simply because of this. Without it, he had no idea if he would even be able to use his MS. To think a simple collection would come with so many terms and conditions, Yuta suddenly paused as a horrible thought occurred to him. System. Yes. Are there any other caveats I should know about? No reply. His eyes narrowed. There are, aren't they? Yes. The boy felt his eyelids twitch. What are they? Well, for starters. The Sharingan comes with a minor prerequisite. I thought you said everything was fine. It isn't fine. Just not the same way UT was with the last one. Rest assured that you will gain an BANLE to use the Sharingan. You just won't be able to turn it off. Yuta sighed. Elaborate. Kakashi couldn't turn off his Sharingan because he wasn't an Uchiha. It drained him constantly. The prerequisite to avoid this is to have the Uchiha bloodline. So if you take the Mangekyo without the bloodline, then you would experience the same issue. Yuda's eye twitched. So you just weren't going to mention that? You didn't ask. Why would I need to ask? That's critical information. The system provides abilities as requested. Optimization is the user's responsibility. He stopped himself, took a breath. Okay. Fine. Is there anything else I should know before I finalize this? Several things. Go on. Second, without a bloodline that includes a chakra system, you will receive your abilities but lack the energy to use them. Yuda went very still. What? Chakra is not automatically granted. It is a biological energy system that must either be a. Developed naturally over years of training. b. Inherited via bloodline. It is not native to this universe and your current body does not possess it. If you had selected only techniques without a bloodline, you would possess the knowledge but not the means to execute them. Cold sweat broke out on Yuda's forehead. I almost picked abilities I couldn't even use. So. I need a bloodline. Correct. The Uchiha bloodline will grant you a chakra system as well as natural affinity for certain chakra natures, though awakening at age 15, your reserves will start at the level of a genin and grow from there. How long until I have decent reserves? It depends on whose Uchiha bloodline you get. From Sasuke, although you won't start from scratch due to your age and Sasuke's talent, your immediate chakra would only be about Sasuke's during his ninja school years. Your current physique, while standard for a regular 15-year-old, is practically inferior to your age group in the hero course and even more inferior to Sasuke's at the age of 8. You will need 6 to 12 months of consistent training to reach Sasuke's level of chakra during the Chunin exams. 2 to 3 more years for Hebi Sasuke level chakra. You will gain a fire and lightning chakra affinity. What about Attack? Even worse. While Attack's bloodline makes him have greater chakra control, fire release affinity, water release chakra nature, and genjutsu attunement than early stage Sasuke, his bloodline comes with a blood disease and his chakra growth is stunted as a result. It would take longer to achieve the same level of chakra and you carry the risk of dying young. Yuda's stomach sank. That really was significantly worse. So I'll be Kakashi. One big jutsu and I'm done for the day. What about the chakra boost that comes with awakening the Mangekyo Sharingan? I've read theories that boost only applies if you awaken it naturally through intense emotional trauma. You are receiving it via system integration, which bypasses the trauma-induced chakra surge. Of course it does. Unless you would like to kill your mother first to trigger a natural awakening. No. Then you will start with minimal reserves. Yuda dragged a hand through his hair. Think. There has to be a workaround. Then it hit him. If the Uchiha bloodline was something selectable, then what about the Uzumaki bloodline? Elaborate. Uzumaki clan members had massive chakra reserves naturally. Naruto, Kushina, Nagato, they all had insane stamina. If I take both Uchiha and Uzumaki bloodlines, you would possess both chakra systems. Result. Ability to deactivate Sharingan, Uchiha trait. Enhanced chakra reserves, Uzumaki trait. Accelerated healing, Uzumaki trait. Fire and lightning release affinity, Uchiha trait. Wind release affinity, Naruto bloodline trait. Longer lifespan, Uzumaki trait. How long until I have decent reserves with Uzumaki? With consistent training and at your current age, you would reach Sasuke's level of chakra at the Chunin exams in less than 3 weeks. 2 to 4 months to reach Sasuke's level at the beginning of Shippuden. 6 to 12 months to match Naruto Uzumaki near his graduation exams from the Ninja Academy. Well, all Yuda could say was the difference in chakra was massive. That's actually manageable. But still not enough to spam Mangekyo abilities. In the short term, no. Initial usage will be limited to 2 to 3 activations per day before chakra exhaustion, and that will only be after the first few weeks of training. Though that will depend on what your initial MS abilities are and how much chakra they will consume. Yuda grimaced. So I'll still be Kakashi. Just, slightly better Kakashi. At least I'll have regular Sharingan abilities. Genjutsu should be insane in this world. Nobody has chakra, so they won't have resistance. Incorrect. What? Genjutsu below Mangekyo level pupil techniques requires the target to possess a chakra system to affect their chakra flow. In this universe, only you will have chakra. Standard Genjutsu, even Genjutsu executed with the help of an MS that is not a distinct pupil technique that doesn't rely on manipulating an already existing chakra system, will be ineffective against quirk users. Yuta stared at the interface. So, the Sharingan's genjutsu was useless. Standard genjutsu, yes. Mangekyo level genjutsu, no. Techniques like Tsukuyomi operate on a reality warping level that transcends chakra manipulation. If you can awaken one, then genjutsu would still be useful. But I won't have enough chakra to use those frequently. Correct. Yuta sat back down on his bed. So I'm not going to be invincible. I'm going to be strong, sure. But I'll need to actually train. Actually grow. Actually be smart about how I fight. He looked at the ceiling. His grand revenge plan against Stain had suddenly lost a few. No, a lot of legs. He took a look at the list of abilities still available. Shadow Possession, Shadow Clones. Finally, it fell on 8 inner gates. Perhaps. Want my advice? Don't even think about IT. You've clearly been avoiding IT for a reason. While powerful, the 8 inner gates isn't a technique or ability where mastery grants power. IT is more accurate to call IT a transformation mode. Learning IT is not the problem. IT requires extreme, rigorous, grueling training to accustom your body to be capable of withstanding the pressure brought about by each subsequent release without rupturing your own body. Even if you used up a slot, you would need months of rigorous, bone-breaking training and adaptation to even attempt opening the first gate. The Uzumaki bloodline will help, but each gate becomes progressively difficult to withstand and the power of the 8 gates will vary depending on who uses IT. IT took Guy 30 years of effort to reach his level. Spending his savings on medicines to increase his recovery rate and more. The MHA universe has no chakra medicines to assist you. Even with an Uzumaki physique and your natural talent, your maximum after 5 years will be the same as Rock Lee's, the 6th gate, nothing more. The silence that followed was deafening. Maybe that's better. If I was too strong too fast, I'd get cocky. And cocky people die in Gotham. Wait, wrong universe. Cocky people die in MHA too. He exhaled slowly. Alright. Final decision. Awaiting selection. 2 Mangekyo Sharingan 1 per eye. Uchiha bloodline. Uzumaki bloodline. Selection confirmed. Mangekyo Sharingan, left eye. Mangekyo Sharingan, right eye. Uchiha bloodline. Uzumaki bloodline. Total, 4/4 slots used. Finalize selection. Yuta took a deep breath. This is it. No take-backs. No do-overs. Yet. Let's do this. Beginning power integration. Warning, this process may be uncomfortable. Define uncomfortable. Imagine someone rewiring your nervous system with a rusty spoon while you're conscious. You could have mentioned that earlier. You didn't ask. I really hate you sometimes. The feeling is mutual. Integration beginning in 3, 2, 1. The transformation. The world exploded into fire. Not metaphorical fire. Actual, searing, white-hot agony that ripped through every nerve in Yuta's body like someone had replaced his blood with molten glass. He tried to scream. Nothing came out. His body seized, muscles locking as something foreign invaded his cells. It felt like being rewritten from the inside out, DNA unspooling and reweaving itself into patterns that shouldn't exist in this universe. This is fine, some distant part of his brain whispered. This is fine, this is fine, this is fine, this is fine, this is. His eyes ignited. Not fine. The Sharingan awakened all at once, not gradually, not gently, but like someone had jammed live wires directly into his optic nerves. Tomo spun into existence, 1, 2, 3, then twisted further, warping into the distinctive pinwheel pattern of the Mangekyo. But it didn't stop there. His chakra system formed next. Pathways carved themselves through his body, invisible rivers of energy that hadn't existed seconds ago. The Uchiha network came first, precise, controlled, flowing like electricity through copper wire. Then the Uzumaki system slammed into him like a tidal wave. Massive. Overwhelming. Alive. His chakra reserves didn't just grow, they erupted, flooding his newly formed pathways until he felt like he might burst from the pressure. It was too much, too fast, like trying to fill a teacup with a fire hose. His heart stuttered. Stopped. Restarted. Am I dying? No. You're evolving. That's not reassuring. His hair shifted color, black strands bleeding into dark red at the tips before practically bleaching into a full-blown red. He had taken the Uzumaki physique from Naruto, and unlike him, Minato's absurd golden-haired genes weren't there to suppress them. It was no surprise that the Uzumaki genetics made themselves feel quite at home. His skin flushed with sudden vitality, minor scars from childhood fading as the healing factor kicked in. And through it all, the pain. Yuta's fingers clawed at the bed sheets, tearing fabric. His teeth ground together hard enough to crack. Sweat poured down his face, mixing with tears he didn't remember crying. Make it stop, make it stop, make it stop. Integration, 47% complete. 47. Chapter 5 Transformation. Time skip, 6 minutes later. Yuta lay on the floor, chest heaving, staring at the ceiling. Everything hurt. No, that wasn't accurate. Everything felt wrong. Like his body was a suit that fit perfectly but was made of entirely different material than what he was used to. He could feel the chakra now. Coiling in his gut, flowing through invisible pathways, humming with potential energy. It was intoxicating. And terrifying. System, he croaked. Status check. Integration complete. Genetic structure, modified. Chakra system, active. Dojutsu, Mangekyo Sharingan, both eyes. Bloodlines, Uchiha and Uzumaki. Current chakra reserves. And my, pupil techniques. Mangekyo abilities will manifest upon first activation. Meaning I won't know what they are until I actually use them. Correct. Yuta slowly pushed himself upright, wincing at the residual aches. His reflection stared back at him from the darkened window. His eyes, previously blue-gray, now held the faint red tint of activated Sharingan, though currently dormant. His hair, however, was a different story. The pitch-black hair now sported a vibrant red with streaks of black at the edges. That alone meant he looked different. Drastically different. Perhaps he can pass it off as dyeing his hair. I'm sure kids do that here. Right. Mom was definitely going to ask questions. He'd deal with that later. For now, he flexed his fingers, feeling the chakra respond. It was sluggish, unfamiliar, like learning to use a phantom limb. But it was there. All right, he muttered. Let's see what I'm working with. He focused, pulling chakra to his eyes. The Sharingan activated. 3 tomo spun into existence, and suddenly the world became sharper. Every detail jumped into crystalline clarity: the individual fibers in his carpet, the dust motes floating in the air, the faint vibration of the refrigerator in the kitchen. It was overwhelming. And incredible. He pushed further, feeling the Mangekyo pattern trying to surface, and immediately staggered, clutching his head as a spike of pain lanced through his skull. The tomo flickered, struggling to maintain even the basic 3 tomo form. Warning: Mangekyo activation requires significantly more chakra. Current reserves insufficient for activation. Yet, Yuta gasped, deactivating the Sharingan entirely. The world dimmed back to normal, and he felt the drain immediately. I noticed. His chakra had dropped noticeably from that brief 5-second activation. Maybe 30 to 45% of his total reserves, just from maintaining the basic Sharingan. I really am Kakashi. Worse than Kakashi, even. That is accurate. Kakashi had years to adapt to his Sharingan's drain. You have minutes. Gee, thanks for the pep talk. You're welcome. Yuta rubbed his temples, feeling the lingering ache behind his eyes. So what now? I assume you have some kind of training regimen, or... My function is complete. He froze. What? Power allocation, complete. Integration, successful. Bloodline stabilization, achieved. My primary directive has been fulfilled. Hold on. I will now enter hibernation mode until required for future dimensional corrections or system updates. Wait, you can't just... Good luck, Yuta Akutami. Try not to die. System. The interface flickered once, twice, then vanished entirely. Yuta stared at the empty air where the translucent blue screen had been floating. You absolute asshole. Silence. He waited. Still nothing. System? Hello? System? Nothing. Oh, come on. He threw his hands up. You give me powers I can barely use, drop a figure it out yourself and then fuck off into hibernation. What kind of customer service is this? The apartment didn't answer. Yuta stood there for a long moment, then let out a laugh, sharp and slightly hysterical. Unbelievable. Unfucking believable. He dragged both hands through his newly red hair. Cosmic placement error, my ass. I got Ice ID by the bargain bin reincarnation service. He took a deep breath. Then another. Okay. Okay. It's fine. I've got powers. I've got knowledge of the timeline. I've got. He looked down at his hands, flexing his fingers. Chakra stirred sluggishly in response. About 3 weeks of training before I need to actually use this stuff. He walked over to his desk and pulled out his notebook, the one with all his MHA timeline notes. He flipped to a fresh page and started writing. Immediate problems. Chakra reserves are pathetic, can barely hold basic Sharingan for seconds. Zero combat experience, knowing jutsu is not equal to knowing how to fight. Can't use Mangekyo at all, not enough chakra to even activate it. Mom will notice the hair, need a cover story. I can just dye it back black. Or say I dyed it red. Mom probably wouldn't mind. Opportunities. UA. Sports festival, showcase abilities. Scout competition. Avoid entirely. Hosu incident, 1 month away, chance to confront Stain. USJ attack, already happened. Skip. Shigaraki and all for one? Not my problem right now. Training montage time, I've got knowledge, now I need skill. Training priorities. Chakra capacity, meditation, chakra control exercises, lots and lots of exercise. Chakra control, tree walking, water walking, leaf exercises. Physical conditioning, Uzumaki healing means I can train harder. Sharingan stamina, need to hold it longer than 5 seconds. Basic taijutsu, can't rely on jutsu if I run out of chakra. Also, how do I even learn jutsu? There are no scrolls. Figure out Mangekyo abilities, can't test them yet, but need to plan. He stared at the list. This is going to take weeks. Months, realistically. And I've got 1 month before Hosu. It'll have to be enough. The next morning, UA. High school. Yuta had exactly 3 hours of sleep. He'd spent the rest of the night recollecting every scrap of knowledge he could remember from the Naruto franchise about chakra control, training methods, and usage. The jutsu, the hand seals, the training methods for Team 7. First on the list was tree walking, followed by water walking and leaf concentration exercise. The rest would be spent trying to figure out how to use the hand seals he remembered from the series to actually perform jutsu. He stepped through the UA gates at 7:45 am, hood pulled up to hide his hair. He'd considered wearing a hat, but that would have drawn more attention. Instead, he'd gone with the mysterious transfer student aesthetic and hoped nobody cared enough to ask questions. Naturally, someone immediately asked questions. Yo, Yuta. Tanaka jogged up beside him, grinning. Dude, did you dye your hair? That's sick. Yeah, Yuta said casually. Figured I needed a change. You know how it is. Hell yeah, I know how it is. My mom nearly killed me when I tried to bleach mine last year. Tanaka squinted at him. Wait, is that natural red or did you box dye? Cheap stuff from the convenience store. Looks expensive, man. Like, professional grade. Because it's genetic modification, not hair dye, but sure. Got lucky, I guess. They walked into the General Studies building, and Yuta immediately felt the stares. Apparently, red hair was uncommon enough to be noteworthy but not weird enough to be concerning. Hey, Yuta. He turned to see Kimura waving from across the hallway. Nice hair. Going for the protagonist look. Yuta forced a grin. Something like that. Well, it works. You look way cooler now. Class started, and Yuta spent the first 30 minutes trying not to fall asleep. Nakamura-sensei was droning on about quirk law and ethics, which would have been interesting if Yuta's brain wasn't still recovering from having his entire genetic structure rewritten. He pulled out his notebook and started sketching a training schedule under the guise of taking notes. Unlike the hero course students, I don't have a lot of free time to hone my abilities. General studies don't have any battle practicals, so they're above me in terms of physical fitness index and I'll have to put in the work to catch up. Week 1. Chakra control basics, leaf exercise. Physical conditioning, endurance running, bodyweight exercises. Sharingan activation practice, goal, 30 seconds sustained. Week 2. Tree walking. Combat theory, watch hero fights, analyze with Sharingan if possible. Increase Sharingan time, goal, 2 minutes. Week 3. Water walking. Sparring practice, find somewhere discreet. Mangekyo attempt, if chakra allows. Week 4. Hosa prep. Finalize combat strategy. Scout stains likely locations. Akudamai. Yuta blinked and looked up. Nakamura-sensei was staring at him. Yes, sensei. I asked you a question. Shit. Could you repeat it? She sighed. I asked what your opinion was on the Hero Public Safety Commission's recent policy changes regarding quirk regulation in private spaces. Yuta's mind raced. Okay, think. What would sound smart but not too smart? I think. He paused. I think it's a necessary measure given the rise in villain activity, but it could also set a dangerous precedent for government overreach. If they can regulate quirk use in private spaces, what's to stop them from expanding that authority further? Nakamura-sensei raised an eyebrow. Interesting take. And what would you propose as an alternative? Why did I open my mouth? Community-based oversight instead of federal mandates. Local hero agencies working with neighborhood councils to establish guidelines that fit specific areas, rather than a one-size-fits-all approach. She nodded slowly. Not bad, Akudamai. Keep that kind of critical thinking up, and you might just make it into the hero course yet. If only she knew. The class moved on, and Yuta went back to his training notes. The thing about general studies was that Mrs. Nakamura's encouragement, while well-meaning, was basically a polite fiction. Almost every kid in this class was here because they couldn't crack U.A.'s brutally competitive hero course entrance exam. 40 slots. 4 reserved for recommendations. That left 36 spots for thousands of applicants. Sure, there was technically a path forward. Show enough promise at the sports festival, catch a teacher's eye, maybe get transferred into the hero course. It happened. Rarely. Shinso Hitachi from Class 1C had managed it, though that was more Aizawa taking pity on a kid with a villainous quirk than any systematic process. But for everyone else? Empty promises. Delusions of grandeur. If you were truly impressive enough to stand out at the sports festival, you wouldn't be in general studies to begin with. Unless you had something nobody knew about. Yuta glanced down at his hands, feeling the faint pulse of chakra beneath his skin. Lunch, UA. Cafeteria. Lunch rush's food was, as always, absurdly good. Yuta sat with his tray katsu curry, rice, miso soup, and some kind of perfectly seasoned vegetables, and had the traitorous thought that it might actually be better than his mom's cooking. Of course, he'd never tell her that. Dude, you gonna eat that or just stare at it? Tanaka asked, already halfway through his own meal. I'm savoring, Yuta replied, taking a bite. Unlike you, I appreciate craftsmanship. It's cafeteria food. Made by a pro-hero cafeteria chef. There's a difference. Across the table, Kimura snorted. You're such a food snob. I'm cultured. There's also a difference. The third member of their usual lunch group, Hanamori, a girl with a plant manipulation quirk that let her grow flowers from her palms, rolled her eyes. You two are exhausting. You love us, Tanaka said with a grin. I tolerate you. Barely. U.A's academic year had barely begun a week ago. The vast majority of first-year students came from different high schools and as a result, didn't know each other. Nevertheless, it didn't stop teenagers from making new friends. In the few days of U.A's opening, Yuta had carved out his own small social circle of casual friendship that didn't require much effort. It was exactly what his mom would want for him. Shame I'm risking everything as a soon-to-be vigilante. So, Tanaka said, leaning forward conspiratorially. Did you guys hear about that explosion kid from Class 1A? Kimura groaned. The one who told everyone he's gonna crush the sports festival. Yet. Bakugo something. Apparently, he straight up said he'd beat everyone and become number 1. Hana raised an eyebrow. That's tactically stupid. Why would you make enemies before a competition? Maybe he's got a death wish, Kimura offered. Maybe he's a hothead who doesn't understand tactics. Or he's just that confident, Yuta said, pushing rice around his plate. I heard he got first place in the hero course entrance exam. Combat score off the charts. Tanaka whistled. Damn. So he's got the skills to back up the talk. Doesn't make it any less dumb, Hana muttered. You don't paint a target on your back unless you're really sure you can handle it. Or unless you're an idiot, Kimura added. Yuta smirked faintly. You'd be surprised how far idiots get in this world. Sounds like personal experience, Hana said, sipping her juice. Something like that. He checked the time on his phone. Lunch period was halfway done. Yuta fell into thought, contemplating whether to leave early and head to the library. There were a dozen things he could be doing right now. Training, meditating, testing his limits were at the top of his priorities, hence his decision to go to the library to research ancient history on ninjas, hand seals and chakra theories. Why? Well, he had run into a problem. Chapter 6 My Quirk. Yuta fell into thought, contemplating whether to leave early and head to the library. There were a dozen things he could be doing right now. Training, meditating, testing his limits, all at the top of his priorities. But research? That was a new addition. Ancient history on ninjas. Hand seals. Chakra theories. He almost laughed at the absurdity. What am I even hoping to find? A forgotten scroll hidden in U.A.'s library? Jutsu for dummies. In the last few hours, Yuta had come to the conclusion that he had a simple but serious problem. After obtaining the Sharingan, Uchiha, and Uzumaki bloodlines, Yuta had almost forgotten that this wasn't the ninja world. This was my hero. Here, he was a one-of-a-kind anomaly. The only living being in the world with chakra. That translated to 4 simple words. He had no jutsu. Sure, he remembered hand seals. Shadow clone. Fireball. Water wall. Even some of the basic ones like henge and bunshin. He'd been a big enough Naruto fan to memorize that much. But hand seals were only half the equation. Jutsu required specific chakra flow patterns, internal pathways that differed for every technique. Without a scroll, without instruction, without someone to show him how the chakra was supposed to move. He was basically trying to play a piano by smashing random keys and hoping for Beethoven. The only exception was Rei's Nan. That one he could theoretically develop on his own. It didn't require hand seals, just pure chakra control and rotation. But he'd barely managed to activate his Sharingan for 5 seconds. Trying to form a Rei's Nan would have been like trying to bench press a car. But today, Yuta flexed his fingers under the table, feeling the chakra respond. It's grown. A lot, actually. Maybe 3 times what he had yesterday. Which still wasn't much. But it's something. Still, the chakra problem was fixable with time. Training, meditation, conditioning his reserves would grow. The jutsu problem, though? No solution. He'd tried calling the system earlier that morning. Predictably, it had remained silent. Useless piece of Yuta. He blinked, focusing back on the table. Hana was watching him with mild concern. You zoned out again. Sorry. Just thinking. About what? Tanaka asked. School stuff. Nothing important. The conversation shifted naturally, drifting from the sports festival to classes to inevitably quirks. So, Kimura said, leaning back in his chair. We've been sitting together all week, and I just realized we've never actually talked about our quirks. Tanaka grinned. Oh, this should be fun. Who's going first? I'll go, Hana volunteered. She gestured to her hair, where a small white flower was blooming near her temple. Plant growth. Specifically from my hair follicles. Kimura blinked. Wait, seriously? Yep. I can grow flowers, vines, even vegetables if I concentrate. She plucked the flower and twirled it between her fingers. I once grew a cucumber on my head during middle school. The pictures still haunt me. Tanaka burst out laughing. That's actually amazing. It's useless, Hana said flatly. Unless you need someone to decorate the gym for prom. Hey, every quirk has its purpose. My purpose is photosynthesis. I'm a walking houseplant. Yuta snorted despite himself. What about you, Kimura? Hana asked. Kimura shrugged. Color shift. I can change the color of my hair and skin. That's it. That's, actually kind of cool. Tanaka offered. It's cosmetic. I'm basically a human mood ring. Kimura tapped the table. Great for Halloween. Terrible for literally everything else. At least you got into U.A, Hana muttered. So did you. General studies doesn't count. The mood had shifted slightly, not quite bitter, but tinged with the kind of resigned humor that came from knowing you weren't good enough. Yuta understood it well. What about you, Tanaka? He asked, deflecting. Tanaka hesitated. Vibration sense. I can feel vibrations through solid surfaces within about 10 meters. That's actually useful, Hana said, perking up. Not really. It's super imprecise. I can tell something's moving, but not what or where exactly. And it gets overwhelmed in crowds. He shrugged. I didn't even crack the top 200 in the entrance exam practical. None of us did, Kimura pointed out. Yeah, but I thought I'd at least get close. Tanaka grimaced. Turns out feeling vibrations doesn't help when a robot's about to punch your face in. They all laughed short, self-deprecating sounds. Then 3 pairs of eyes turned to Yuta. All right, your turn, Hana said. What's your quirk? Yuta leaned back, considering. What? Is it that bad? Hana asked with raised eyebrows. What's there to hide? It's just as good as the rest of yours. Oh, this is gonna be good, Kimura said, grinning. Yuta reached out and placed a finger on his empty lunch tray. Following which, a small miniature kanji symbol appeared on the body. The tray wobbled. Then lifted. It floated toward him slowly, hovering about 6 inches off the table. Whoa, Tanaka breathed. Telekinesis? Hana asked, eyes wide. Not exactly. Yuta kept his focus on the tray. I can manipulate anything I touch, but only objects and things close to me. The farther away they get, the weaker my control becomes. That's the simplified version, anyway. The full truth was more complicated. His quirk was called enhanced control. It gave him greater mastery over his own body. Muscles, nerves, and biological processes were under his conscious command if he wanted it to be. Balance? Great. Coordination? Flawless. Aim and precision? Top tier. Hand-eye coordination? Reflex optimization? Peak of human possible reaction. Poison resistance? He could literally tell his body to flush toxins out faster. Slow down hunger, thirst, enhance concentration, hell, he could even control when he needed to take a dump for a while. In another setting, it was the kind of quirk martial artists would kill for. Here, he could do yoga on hard mode. But few people needed to know that. However, what he told people was basically the secondary effect, projecting that control outward was what people saw. And that part was mostly useless. By marking something, he could move objects near his body with decent precision. It didn't work on humans as they carried way too many complicated parts, and the effective range was barely a meter before his control started to weaken dramatically. Honestly, it was one of the better picks among low-tier quirks. Its weakness lay in the fact that although he could control his body to do things, he was ultimately still human. Doing any single one of those things required a large energy cost, and removing the limiters of the human body took a pretty large toll he couldn't handle for more than 30 seconds. But it didn't give him any mutations, and was straightforward enough to understand. So it's like weak telekinesis, Kimura summarized. Pretty much. That's still cooler than changing my hair color. Not by much. Yuta focused, pushing the tray away. Watch. He sent it outward with effort, trying to extend his range, to prove he could control things farther away and show just how weak it was. Hey! The tray shot forward like a bullet. No way! It rocketed across the cafeteria, a red and white blur, covering 30 meters in half a second. Then it slammed into the back of someone's head with a dull thunk. The girl, pink skin, short horns, bright yellow eyes, went down like a sack of bricks, face planting directly into her bowl of ramen. Worse still, that wasn't the end of it. The tray ricocheted and a second thunk echoed throughout the cafeteria. A voice yelped. High-pitched. Very offended. Ow! What the heck? The cafeteria fell dead silent. Every student looked around. Yuta stared in growing horror. There was no one there. So who? Oh wait, was that a floating uniform crumpling inward? Yuta's eyes were about to fall off their sockets. Mina Ashido. I just knocked out Mina Ashido. And Toru Hagakure. Dude, Tanaka whispered. I didn't. Yuta stood up quickly. I didn't mean to. Across the cafeteria, Class 1A were already rushing over. We're already rushing over. A green-haired girl Tsuya was pulling her upright, noodles dripping from her face. Is she okay? Someone shouted. She's breathing. Who threw that? Mina rubbed her head, dazed. What the did someone just throw a tray at me? Hagakura's sleeves waved wildly in the air. I got hit too. Twice. What kind of projectile ricochets? And then slowly, inevitably every head in the cafeteria turned towards Yuta's table. Feeling numerous gazes examine them over, the group of four felt their spines tingle. Kimura whispered, Bro, you just sniped 2 hero course students. That's a double homicide. Hana covered her face. We're dead. We're so dead. Class 1A immediately stood up, half in alarm, half in outrage. Ida's engines revved. Who is responsible for this cafeteria violation? Projectiles are strictly prohibited in designated eating areas. Mina pointed directly at Yuta. It was that guy. Yuta, who had been contemplating making a break for the exit, felt his heart sink. She wasn't even looking in his direction. How the hell did she know it was him? Hagakure yelled, Yet! The red-haired one. Dozens of hero course eyes landed on Yuta. This was not how he had expected to meet Class 1A. Chapter 7 Level Up. Hey! You! The floating uniform shouted in acutely enraged voice. Why did you launch a tray at me? Half the cafeteria focused on Yuta. Yuta, who wanted to sink into the floor and die instantly. That was an Axi. The gloves marched toward him with righteous fury. Behind her, several 1A students stood up. Ida, Midoriya, Kirishima, Ashido, all staring in confusion as a floating lunch tray drifted behind Hagakure like the world's most incriminating evidence. It just flew at me. She continued dramatically. Do you know how embarrassing it is to get hit by a tray no one even sees coming? Kimura whispered, This is the funniest thing I've ever heard. Hana elbowed him. Not helping. Yuta swallowed thickly as the invisible hands planted themselves on the table in front of him. Okay, Hagakure said. Explain. I swear it was an accident, Yuta said with haste. I wasn't aiming at anyone. Yeah, well guess what? Hagakure snapped. You hit someone. How do you even do that? Hagakure demanded. My quirk misfired. What kind of quirk misfires like a railgun? By now, half of Class 1A had gathered around, along with a growing crowd of curious students from other courses. Yuta could feel Ida's judgmental stare boring into his soul. This is a serious matter, Ida said, adjusting his glasses. Reckless quirk usage in public spaces is a violation of UA Conduct Code Section 3, Paragraph 7. Ida, Midoriya interrupted gently. Maybe we should make sure they're okay first. I'm fine, Mina said, clearly not fine. But I want an explanation. Recovery Girl's Office, 12:52 p.m. Yuta had been escorted to Recovery Girl's office by Ida. Escorted was a polite term for what had actually happened. Ida had marched him through U.A.'s hallways like a convicted criminal, engines idling ominously, while lecturing him about proper cafeteria conduct and the responsibilities that come with quirk usage in public spaces. Yuta had tuned out after the first minute. Now he sat in Recovery Girl's office, flanked by 2 very annoyed hero course students. Recovery Girl, a tiny woman with a nurse's cap and a perpetually kind expression, looked up from her desk. Then she saw Mina's bruised forehead and Hagakure's dented uniform. Oh my! What happened here? Cafeteria incident, Mina said. He threw a tray at us, Hagakure added helpfully. It was an accident. Recovery Girl held up a hand. I'm sure it was, dear. Now, let's take a look. She examined Mina first. Mild concussion, nothing serious. A quick kiss from her quirk, and the swelling went down. Then she turned to Hagakure. And you, dear? I got hit on my cheek. Can you lower your right? Recovery Girl felt around gently until she found the bump. Another kiss, and Hagakure sighed in relief. There we go. You're both fine. She looked at Yuta with a knowing smile. And you must be the culprit. Unintentionally. Him. She studied him for a moment, eyes narrowing slightly. You're looking well. Very well, actually. Have you been eating properly? Sleeping. Yes. Good, good. She waved him off. Try not to throw any more trays, dear. Now shoo, All of you. I have other patients. In front of recovery girl's office 1:05 p.m. The door clicked shut behind them. Yuta exhaled for what felt like the first time in 15 minutes. Mina rubbed the back of her head, now healed but still tender. Hagakure crossed her arms, the sleeves of her uniform puffing out in irritation. Ida stood like a traffic cone with legs. Midoriya hovered awkwardly, clearly trying to mediate. And Yuta wanted to evaporate. Mina finally broke the silence. So? You seriously didn't mean it? No, Yuta said, exhausted. I promise. My quirk usually can't move things more than a meter. I wasn't expecting that. Hagakure leaned forward, or at least, her sleeves did. You don't say. Yuta winced. Yet. Again, sorry. Mina let out a slow sigh. All right. Fine. Accidents happen. Just maybe don't practice aim in the cafeteria. I wasn't practicing aim, he stopped. But yet. Point taken. Midoriya rubbed the back of his neck. If it helps, your quirk is interesting. Yuta blinked. Thanks. That wasn't a compliment, Hagakure said flatly. That tray hurt. Noted. Ida adjusted his glasses. As long as the matter is settled peacefully, we should return to our classrooms. Lunch period is nearly over. Mina rolled her eyes. Yet, class rep mode activated. Hagakure jabbed a sleeve at Yuta. Don't do it again. Then she marched off with Mina in tow. Ida followed, marching at full speed. Midoriya lingered a moment longer. Seriously, though? Be careful. A lot of people in the cafeteria could have been hurt. I know, Yuta said. It won't happen again. Midoriya offered a small smile. Good. See you around. Then he jogged off to catch up with his class. And finally Yuta was alone. He leaned against the hallway wall and let his head fall back with a dull thud. I need to train. General Studies Class 1D 1:13 p.m. He slipped back into the classroom just before the bell rang. Kimura immediately leaned over. Are you expelled? No. Hana whispered, suspended. No. Tanaka looked impressed. Alive. Barely. Their instructor glanced up from his laptop. Akudamai, good. Take your seat. We'll be resuming with quirk theory. Yuta slumped into his chair. Nakamura-sensei continued her lecture, but Yuta barely heard a word. His thoughts were too loud. The tray incident. His quirk reacting weirdly. Something had changed. He pressed his thumb against the corner of his desk. A tiny kanji symbol pulsed into existence. He nudged it. The desk trembled just slightly, then hovered a few inches off the floor. He rested his full body weight on it. Nothing changed. The weight increase wasn't registered, the table didn't tremble, and he felt no additional strain of any sort. That wasn't normal. His quirk didn't work like that before. He had used it just yesterday before heading off to school. He hadn't felt a thing. What was with the difference now? It shouldn't improve. Quirks don't improve. Not like this. Digging deeper with utmost attention, he finally realized what was going on after a few minutes. His limited chakra was depleting. Is it the chakra? Is it bleeding into my quirk? He swallowed. This was out of his expectations. Hey, what are you thinking about? Your lips are twitching. Hearing Kimura's kind reminder, Yuta's face darkened. Taking a deep breath, he corrected his facial features and put on a look of utmost concentration. Meanwhile, his thoughts were spinning crazily. If chakra was amplifying his quirk, if his ability to project control was increasing, that changed everything. To think it would have such an effect. Is there something else I haven't noticed yet? Looks like the original plan to head to the library would have to be postponed. His original quirk had no place in his training plans. It was different now. This might actually be a good thing. If I can get this under control. If he played it right, this was a shortcut. A real one he could work with. UA. Courtyard after school 3:30 p.m. Classes ended. Students spilled out across campus. Yuta headed straight for the courtyard behind General Studies, the one nobody used because it was mostly just grass and a storage shed. No one's around. He glanced left and right. Perfect. Dropping his bag, he sat cross-legged, closed his eyes, and reached inward. Chakra. It responded to his call, warm and free-flowing. He raised his hand and concentrated. The little chakra he had flowed to his finger and condensed. The next second, his finger was encased in a silvery white glow. It's simpler than I thought it would be. He thought with amazement at the sight. He had initially thought condensing chakra into physical form would be difficult for him with his nearly non-existent foundation. Turns out, perhaps it's because the amount is too little. He mused. Either that or I have good talent for chakra control. It is a combination of Uchiha and Uzumaki bloodlines after all. This was good. If he was as talented as Sakura, then requirements for tree walking and water walking would decrease drastically. So the time needed to master it could be allocated elsewhere. Now then, for the moment of truth. He took a slow breath. Then he pressed his palm on his backpack containing several thick textbooks. A kanji symbol flickered. The bag lifted an inch. 2 inches. 5. A foot. 5 feet. 10. Yuta opened his eyes. Oh. Though his chakra was being consumed, he felt no physical strain yet. No flicker unlike his Sharingan. Instead of rising higher, he willed it to move further away. And so it did. 1 meter, 2, 4, 6. No distance limit yet. His control had improved drastically. Automatically. It really is the chakra. A slow, dangerous grin spread across his face. The world. No. His world had just changed. Chapter 8 Fleeing for One's Life. Yuta slowly lowered the backpack until it rested gently on the grass. His heart was beating fast not from exertion, but from possibility. So it wasn't a fluke. My quirk is syncing with my chakra. He pressed his thumb to a pebble on the floor. Kanji. Lift. Effortless. He pushed it further 5 meters, 10, 15. The pebble hovered as if weightless, completely stable, no wobbling, no strain in his hand, no trembling muscles. The drain was real, his chakra was bleeding steadily, but the control? Perfect. This wasn't how his quirk behaved. Not even close. Before, the further an object went, the harder it was to keep from dropping it. Now it felt like the opposite. Distance didn't matter, neither did control deteriorate. The pebble hovered as if weightless, perfectly steady, no wobbling, no drop-off in control. But the drain. The drain was different. Moving the backpack had tugged at his chakra in a noticeable, heavy way. Moving the pebble, barely anything. Okay. So the chakra cost isn't uniform. He frowned. It wasn't weightless. It wasn't free. He could feel the tug. Small, almost unnoticeable, but it was there. So it's proportional. Weight? Distance? Duration? All of the above. That made more sense. It also meant he wasn't suddenly some limitless telekinetic god. He curled his fingers. The pebble snapped toward him instantly, stopping a centimeter from his palm. He didn't even flinch. This is insane. His quirk wasn't meant for combat. It wasn't meant for strength. It wasn't meant for range. It was supposed to be a support-type ability that barely counted as telekinesis. But now if I get some high-quality controllable objects, weapons and support gear, then my fighting ability would increase dramatically. This ability reminded him of several instances in the ninja world. The puppet manipulation of the hidden sand, just without the chakra threads. The 6 paths bodies of the Rinnegan, and Shin Uchiha's Mangekyo Sharingan ability. Thinking of the last one, Yuta couldn't help but frown. His power was exactly like Shin's. The difference lay that his was a chakra-powered quirk while Shin's was an MS ability. Maybe this was why Shin's power was so despised by the fandom. It was literally the weakest pupil technique ability ever displayed in the entire franchise. It wasn't a bad power in itself. The problem lay in the fact that it was a bad power when compared to other MS abilities. The MS was supposed to be the ultimate hacks tool of the ninja world. Kota Amatsukami could reshape will. Tsukuyomi could manipulate time perception and inflict incredible mental damage. Amaterasu was a weaker Raijin Jaka that couldn't be extinguished by water or other regular means and burned as hot as the sun's surface. Kamui was the ultimate space-time ninjutsu. Not to mention Madara's limbo clones, Kagai's dimensional spamming, Momoshike's absorption and amplification, and Ishaiki's shrinking. Rinnegan abilities, but still. The only thing that object manipulation could compete with was Sasuke's Kagutsuki. Let's try something else. Wanting to test whether the chakra expenditure was truly the same, he placed his marking back on the school bag and attempted to lift it alongside the pebble. Yuta pressed his thumb to the backpack again, reactivating the mark. The pebble was still floating. Now he added the bag. Both lifted. But the difference was immediate. The pebble felt like holding a feather at arm's length, barely noticeable, almost negligible. The backpack felt like dragging a weight through water, present, constant, heavy. Not physically heavy. He wasn't straining his muscles. But the chakra drain tripled instantly. So it is proportional to weight. He held them both for 30 seconds, watching his chakra reserves tick downward. The pebble cost almost nothing. The backpack was bleeding him steadily. Good to know. Light objects equals sustainable. Heavy objects equals burst usage only. He released both. They dropped. Yuta sat back, breathing slowly, feeling his chakra reserves. Maybe 60% left? Not bad. He stood, brushing grass off his uniform, and looked around the empty courtyard. All right. One more test. His eyes drifted to the tree at the edge of the courtyard, a cluster of old oaks that nobody bothered trimming. Perfect. Yuta stood at the base of the tallest tree, staring up at the trunk. Tree walking. The first real test of chakra control in the Naruto world. He remembered the scene clearly. Kakashi teaching Team 7. Naruto failing repeatedly. Sasuke struggling. Sakura succeeding on her first try because of her natural chakra control. Let's see if I'm more Sakura or more Naruto. He placed his foot against the bark and channeled chakra to the sole. His foot stuck. Firmly. Evenly. Perfectly. Oh. He took another step. Still stuck. Another. Within 10 seconds, he was walking vertically up the tree like it was the most natural thing in the world. No wobbling. No slipping. No blasting himself off from too much chakra or falling from too little. He reached a thick branch about 20 feet up and stopped, standing perpendicular to the ground. This is way too easy. He'd expected to struggle. To fail a few times. Instead, it felt as natural as walking on flat ground. Is it the bloodlines? Uzumaki vitality plus Uchiha precision? Maybe. The Uzumaki were known for their massive chakra reserves and stamina. The Uchiha had naturally refined chakra control for their fire jutsu and Sharingan. Or maybe it's because my reserves are still small, so controlling them is easier. That made some sense. Controlling a trickle of water was easier than controlling a flood. But that doesn't explain this level of precision. He crouched on the branch, then stood on one foot. Still perfect balance. Still no wasted chakra. It's my quirk, isn't it? Enhanced control. Perfect mastery over his own body. And now, apparently, perfect mastery over his own chakra. I'm basically using the minimum amount needed to achieve maximum effect. He channeled chakra to his hand and pressed it against the tree trunk, watching the flow. It was efficient. Not a single drop wasted. This is like the 6 eyes from Jujutsu Kaisen. Budget version without the eyes, but still. If tree walking was this easy, water walking should be trivial too. And if chakra control wasn't a limiting factor, then I can focus entirely on capacity building and technique development. Yuta grinned despite himself. One problem solved. He walked further up the tree, testing his limits. 30 feet. 40. 50. He reached the top branches, where the trunk narrowed and the leaves grew thick. And then, just because he could, he walked out onto a horizontal branch and stood upside down, feet planted on the underside. The world flipped. Blood didn't rush to his head. His chakra kept him anchored perfectly. This is insane. I love it. He dropped into a crouch still upside down and channeled chakra through his legs. Then he jumped. Not down. Across. His body launched from the branch, sailing through the air in a perfect arc, and landed on another tree 15 meters away. His feet stuck instantly. No stumble. No hesitation. Chakra-enhanced movement. That's definitely useful. He could feel his reserves draining faster now, maybe down to 40%, but the mobility was incredible. He imagined fighting on uneven terrain. Walls. Ceilings. Rooftops. I'd have a massive advantage. He walked down the tree still testing, still marveling at how easy this was and landed softly on the grass. His chakra was lower now. Maybe 35%. Time to call it. But as he turned to head back, movement caught his eye. Past the treeline, beyond the courtyard, there was a large open field. And someone was running across it. Fast. Yuta squinted. Even without activating his Sharingan, his vision had noticeably improved since yesterday. Sharper. Clearer. The figure was wearing U.A.'s gym uniform white and blue and had distinctive leg engines. Ida. Tinya Ida from Class 1A. The overly serious class representative who'd escorted him to Recovery Girl like a convict. He was running laps. Full speed. Engines roaring. Yuta watched for a moment, then heard another sound. Boom. An explosion echoed from the opposite direction. Yet. A loud roar fell into his ears. Yuta turned. If he had to bet, that would be Katsuki Bakugo, the main protagonist. Ahem. Supporting character. Or was it the second deuteragonist? Or second tritagonist? In his view, the MHA universe was divided between Deku, Bakugo, and Todoroki Shoto in the 4 seasons he watched. Just like how Sasuke and Naruto were the 2 major faces of Naruto. That aside, if Ida was here training, Bakugo would be too. Probably half of Class 1A was using U.A.'s facilities right now. Makes sense. 2 weeks until the festival. They'd be stupid not to train. Yuta glanced back toward the main school building. UA has a gym. Equipment. Training rooms designed for quirk practice. However, those were for hero course students. Not for general studies. He frowned. Would they even let me use it? Probably not. Resources were limited. Priority went to students actually on the hero track. But it's not like I can train at home. I live in an apartment. And using my quirk in public is illegal without a license. He could keep using this courtyard. It was isolated enough. But if he wanted to build muscle, increase stamina, push his physical limits. I need a gym. He pulled out his phone and checked the time. I can ask. Worst they can say is no. Push UPS. Sit UPS. Squats. Running. The full Shadow Monarch training regimen. Keep a low profile though. Don't stand out more than I already have. Trey Guy is enough of a reputation. He grabbed his bag and started walking back toward the main building. He grabbed his bag and started heading back toward the courtyard, but paused. Actually. He glanced at the trees. Let's test the mobility one more time. He pushed chakra into his legs, jumped, and shot upward into the branches like a squirrel on jet fuel. He landed, crouched, and immediately launched again tree to tree, branch to branch, moving through the canopy like it was a highway. Man, this is addictive. The world blurred past him. Wind in his face. Perfect balance. Zero hesitation. I could get used to this. One more leap higher this time. He soared above the treeline just as. Ground level, same time. Mina Ashido, Momo Yaeorozu, and Toru Hagakure walked down the path toward the training grounds. And then he just launched the tray, Mina said, waving her arms. Like boom right into my ramen. Instant KO. It wasn't instant, Hagakure grumbled. I was conscious the whole time. Today is actually cursed. Momo smiled politely. Well, at least Recovery Girl healed us up. That's not the point. Hagakure stomped, her sleeves flaring indignantly. I went to school today. I put on my uniform. I was ready to eat like a normal student. And then a tray flew out of nowhere. Mina snorted. Okay, yeah, that part was hilarious. It hurt. The 3 of them heading in different directions but walking together for now. So what's everyone's training plan? Momo asked, stretching her arms overhead. I'm hitting the gym, Hagakure said immediately. Gonna do reps until I can't feel my arms. Which muscles? All of them. Mina blinked. You're invisible. Why do you need to build muscle? Because I'm invisible, not intangible. I still have a body. Fair point. Momo adjusted her ponytail. I'll be in the workshop. I need to practice creating complex items under time pressure. Ugh, that sounds boring, Mina said. I'm joining Yurika and Aoyama at ground beta for quirk drills. Way more fun. Fun doesn't win festivals, Momo replied primly. Neither does being a killjoy, but here you are. Hagakure giggled a sound that seemed to come from nowhere. You two are like an old married couple. Dash. Above them. Yuta reached the peak of his jump and froze. A bird, an angry-looking crow, came barreling directly into his flight path. What? Instinct took over. He twisted midair, flipped backward, planted chakra along his spine and shoulders and stuck to the underside of a branch like a gecko doing acrobatics. The bird whooshed past him with a disgruntled caw. Yuta exhaled. Close call. Thwib. A sudden shift of weight. His eyes widened. Wait. One of his textbooks slipped out of his backpack. He reached. Missed. The book plummeted downward in slow motion. No. Dash. Below. Mina was mid-sentence. Anyway, if I can get my acid viscosity. Thunk. Something hit Hagakure on the head. Ow. Again. She clutched her invisible head. What is it with today? Momo gasped. Toru. Mina rubbed her scalp reflexively, glaring upward. Who even drops a book from the roof? Momo picked up the book. General Studies edition. Mathematics. Hagakure threw her sleeves up. Why does this school hate my face? Don't be overdramatic. It hit me, not you. Dash. Above them. Yuta clung upside down to the branch, staring in absolute horror at the scene below. He could tell exactly what happened. He felt the weight leave his bag. He saw the aftermath. And worst of all, he saw Mina bent down. Pick up his book. And open it. His name was inside. Full name. Class number. Student ID sticker. He went pale. Nope. 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 I'm out. He stood right side up and prepared to bolt when. Crack. The branch made cracking noises from his weight. Hey. The girls looked up. Time seemed to slow down. Oh no. Seeing he was about to be discovered, Yuta panicked. Instinctively, he pushed chakra into every muscle without a second thought and with no idea what he was doing. Following which his body blurred before disappearing without a trace. Hey? That's odd. What's up, Yayo Momo? Nothing. I thought I heard something. Meanwhile, Yuta, who had just performed the body flicker technique without thinking, couldn't give a crap as he shot away through the trees like a ninja escaping a war crime scene. He didn't look back. Couldn't look back. Wouldn't survive looking back. Chapter 9. Feeling like Kakashi. UA. Campus behind the trees. 4:01 p.m. Yuta reappeared 20 meters away, behind a different tree. He slammed into the ground, rolled twice, and ended up sprawled on his back staring at the sky. For a solid 3 seconds, he lay frozen. Then. I am so unbelievably dead. Also, ow. Every nerve in his body buzzed like he'd just plugged himself into a power outlet. His entire body felt hollow, like someone had scooped out his insides with a ladle. That's body flicker? It sucks. Never doing that again anytime soon. Not unless I want to die on purpose. The body flicker jutsu, if he remembered right, was a D-rank technique. It worked by vitalizing every part of the user's body with chakra to enable high-speed movement. To an observer, it would seem like outright teleportation. To think I would master it like this. However, there were costs after all, as the chakra expenditure required wasn't small. That wasn't even mentioning his current aching pain. He groaned, rolled to his side, and sat up. Yab. His chakra was gone. Well, I should have guessed as much. Zero. Nada. Empty. He was a regular human now. A wry smile appeared on his face. Looks like increasing my chakra capacity is priority number 1. He had wiped out all his chakra despite having near perfect, if not perfect control. The expenditure would definitely have been enough to kill him if it hadn't been the case. He would have literally died from social embarrassment. He rubbed his face. I dropped a book on a girl's head. Then buried it in both hands. Why is today violent? What curse is this? After a long moment, he forced himself to stand, grabbed the straps of his backpack and trudged out of the trees, heading toward the main gate. Along the way, some support course kids wheeled a cart of half-finished gadgets and a few parents were waiting by the campus gates to pick up their kids. Nobody paid him any attention. Small blessings. His bag bounced lightly on his shoulder. Ah, right. The missing textbook. Great. Another problem. Another yen expense. He groaned. He would have to buy a replacement or borrow one before class. Maybe the girls didn't notice the name. A beat of silence. Yeah, no, who am I kidding? They definitely noticed. He could practically imagine their conversation. He sighed heavily, dragging himself out onto the sidewalk outside UA. Chakra exhaustion sucked. Dash. Back to the girls. Mina still held the textbook like it was evidence in a murder case. I'm telling you, the universe is pranking me. First a tray, now a book. A book. Mina patted her sympathetically. It's okay, Toru. Think of it this way, at least it wasn't hot soup this time. It hurt. It could have been worse. Momo examined the cover again. This belongs to a first year in general studies. Akudamaya Yuta. Know who that is? No. But I now know the general studies course is after me. The guy with the tray was from general studies too. Could they be the same person? A beat of silence. Then, Hagakure shrieked. So he's targeting us. Maybe it was just coincidence, Momo offered gently. Coincidence doesn't hit me twice. 2 accidents, Momo said calmly. Both unlikely. But, not impossible. Tisk. Mom was right. Boys are bad. Hagakure sighed in defeat. Mina rubbed her chin. Should we return the book? Hagakure gasped. No. What if he's lurking? Waiting. Watching. Momo blinked. Toru, dear, he's a general studies boy, not a supervillain. Hagakure puffed her sleeves. I'm not going. What if something else falls out of the sky? A desk? A locker? A microwave? Momo stifled a laugh. It won't happen again. It was probably just an accident. Probably, Hagakure repeated ominously. Still, Mina tucked the book under her arm. I'll return it after training today. Or tomorrow if we don't see him. Whoever owns this book will probably be embarrassed. Let's not make it worse. Hagakure grumbled. Fine. But I'm wearing a helmet tomorrow. Street 4:16 p.m. Walking to the train station was normally peaceful. Today? Every 10 steps, exhaustion settled deeper into his bones. So this is what being Kakashi must feel like. He lifted his arm. It shook. Chakra depletion was literally tied to physical stamina. Which made sense. Naruto explained it clearly. Physical energy and spiritual energy. Chakra. And if one bottomed out, the other suffered. So his chakra was a double-edged sword. He wouldn't die immediately if he worked himself to exhaustion. But he would certainly die if he drained every last ounce of chakra in his body. I need to be more careful. I am a minor uneducated in the usage of chakra. If I don't get used to this, I'm gonna kill myself with it. A shiver crawled down his spine. He needed more chakra. A lot more. Yuta dragged his feet along the sidewalk, breathing like someone who had just finished running a marathon in a sauna. Mustafa's street slowly thinned out behind him as he moved toward the station. The buildings transitioned from crowded convenience stores and small cafes to more open spaces, parking lots, bus stops, stretches of quiet road. It reminded him he didn't actually live in Mustafa. He only went to school here. Home was in Hinohara City. A decently sized town with just enough population for a hospital, a mall, a few parks, and a hero agency that only patrolled and hardly solved any crimes. That was the hero agency his mom worked for. Every morning, he took the train from Hinohara to Mustafa. Every evening, he took the train back. It was a familiar journey, one he'd made 5 times before, but today it felt like an eternity. He checked the time. 4:24 p.m. If he hustled, he could catch the 4:30 train. If he missed it, he'd be stuck waiting 20 minutes for the next one. He shook his head, immediately regretted it, and staggered forward. The station finally came into view: 3 escalators, 2 vending machines, and a large glowing sign displaying the incoming departures. He exhaled in relief. Mustafa Station, 4:27 p.m. Yuta shuffled through the entrance gates, tapped his IC card, and watched the balance pop up. 1,384 yen remaining. He joined the crowd heading toward platform 3. The station speakers announced something about arrival delays and safety reminders, but his brain filtered it out completely. He had never wanted to sit down more than he did right now. Reaching the stairs down to the platform, the digital display changed just as he reached the bottom. 4:30 Hinohara line arriving now. Perfect timing. The platform was crowded, as usual office workers, students, parents, the occasional pro-hero in casual clothes. Yuta saw none of them. His vision was washing out at the edges like someone smeared Vaseline on his retinas. Okay, train home, shower, food, coma, in that order. The train slid into the station. Doors opened. A fresh wave of commuters poured out, another pushed in. Yuta followed quietly, slipping into a window seat near the back. He let out a slow breath. Finally. Getting on the train, he found an empty seat and collapsed into it, his backpack slipping off his shoulder. As the train pulled out of the station, Yuta let his eyes droop. The rhythmic motion of the train was soothing, and he felt his exhaustion catch up with him. He'd been up since dawn, training and researching, and the adrenaline had finally worn off. The cityscape outside the window blurred as the train picked up speed. Yuta's head lolled to the side, his grip on consciousness slipping. He tried to fight it, but it was no use. His eyes closed, and soon, he was out cold. The train continued on, carrying Yuta further and further away from Mustafu. He slept through the stops at Mitaka, Musashi Sakai, and Kokubunji. The train was approaching Hinohara when the conductor called out, "Next stop, Hinohara." Hinohara. Outside the window, city scenery flickered by stores, overhead bridges, road signs. Stops came and went. His stop came. His stop went. He did not. Somewhere, 6:11 p.m. Stop, Tsutsujajayaka. Tsutsujajayaka. Doors opening on the left. Yuta's eyes cracked open. The train was moving again. He blinked, groggy, trying to orient himself. Wait. Tsutsujajayaka? His stop was Hinohara. He sat up, rubbing his face. How long was I out? He pulled out his phone. 6:11 p.m. Shit. He'd been asleep for over an hour and a half. The train announcer's voice crackled again. Approaching Machida. Machida Station. Machida. That was 3 stops past Hinohara. Yuta shot to his feet, grabbed his bag, and stumbled toward the doors. The train slowed. Stopped. Doors opened. He stepped out onto the platform, disoriented, exhausted, and completely lost. Where the hell am I? Chapter 10 I'm with a girl. Machida Station 6:11 p.m. The platform hummed. Fluorescent lights. Announcements. People moving like they knew exactly where they were going. Yuta did not. He leaned on a pillar, let the cool metal steady him, then checked the overhead map. Lines in different colors snaked everywhere. His brain lagged 2 steps behind his eyes. He'd been asleep for over an hour and a half. Missed his stop by a home run, and was completely unfamiliar with wherever he was right now. You've got to be kidding me. Yuta surveyed his surroundings with hollow eyes. Okay. I'm in Machida, which is, not Hinohara. His mouth was dry. His legs felt like old batteries holding a charge until you asked them to do anything. He took the nearest exit to get air and nearly walked into a street vendor shouting about skewers. The evening had cooled. Neon signs blinked on, one by one. Salarymen, couples, probably a hero sidekick in a hoodie trying unsuccessfully to look like a civilian. Yep, this was certainly not Hinohara. Great. Just great. He collapsed onto the bench and checked his phone. Battery, 47%. Wallet, 1,384 yen. Dignity, long gone. At least my chakra's coming back. He looked at the only bright spot in this scenario. Nearly 2 hours of napping had regenerated most of his chakra reserves. Somewhere between 60 to 80%. He could feel it. Best of all? It's bigger. Upon careful inspection, he realized that his current chakra supply far surpassed what he previously had. It had more than doubled. His chakra pathways felt wider. Less restricted. Like someone had cleared out debris from a clogged pipe. TCH. To think nearly killing myself actually helped. That was how it worked in Naruto, wasn't it? Push yourself to the limit, recover, come back stronger. Typical shounen logic. Train until you almost die, repeat until overpowered. He would test that out later. For now? Find another train. Go back. See mom. Go home. Easy. Hence, he stood on the platform, staring at the departures board like it had personally betrayed him. Next train to Hinohara, 6:52 p.m. 40 minutes. Damn it. Visiting hours ended by 8 o'clock. He doubted he would make it. And even if he did, it would be way too late and draw way too many questions. This is a nightmare. Mom's gonna kill me if she finds out this happened. He groaned and dragged himself toward a bench. All right, no need to panic. This is something you can resolve carefully. Just give her a call and tell her you won't be able to make it. She's gonna ask me why. Okay, still no problem. I'll tell her I'm preparing for the sports festival. But she knows I wasn't going to participate before. His chances weren't great before the system, so when she asked, he had shown disinterest in participating more than once. Before awakening his memories, Yuta had been a pragmatist who knew his limits. It wasn't like him to just change his mind without a good reason, and she would definitely ask why. Tell her about my quirk getting stronger. Will probably bring a whole lot of questions I am currently not prepared to answer. So, terrible idea then. There was no helping it. Aiko Akutamiya wasn't a strict mother, nor was she a control freak, but she was overly perceptive. The type of person who always picked on simple oddities and wanted to get to the bottom of any discussion once she sensed something was wrong. It was most likely the direct effect of her quirk. If he told her he stayed after school, she'd ask why. If he said he felt unwell, she would demand specifics. If he blamed homework, she'd know he was bluffing instantly. Why can't you just say you stayed in the library or some similar, you ask. Because she would know he was lying. And so, 5 minutes passed as Yuta sat in the bench, trying to figure out what lie sounded least suicidal. Okay. Just say you slept off. Couldn't get a good sleep last night. Easy. Simple. Honest-ish. He inhaled, thumb hovering over the call button when BRZZZ. His phone started ringing. He nearly jumped out of his skin. Mom lit up the screen in bright blue. Oh no. He whispered. Classic case of speak of the devil and he will appear. The situation just worsened when Mom called by herself. It meant she was curious enough to want to know. Speak of the devil, he muttered, then winced. No, wait, she's not a devil, she's just terrifying. He swallowed hard and picked up. Hey, Mom. Yuta. His mother's voice answered, warm but direct. You're late. You should have been here an hour ago. Did something happen? The tone alone almost made him hang up. Yeah, about that. Yuta straightened in the seat, gripping the phone with both hands. I'm not going to make it tonight. A tiny pause. Why? She asked. She already knew something was wrong. I fell asleep on the train. Missed my stop. You fell asleep? Yeah, I was tired after school. Couldn't really sleep well last night. Dozed off on the train home. A tiny pause stretched the line taut. Yuta, sweetheart, you don't sleep on trains. Yuta blinked. Hey. You've never been comfortable dozing off around strangers, even when you were little. You're a light sleeper, you always pop awake the second someone gets too close to the seat. Her voice softened slightly, but the inquiry remained firm. Why the sudden change? He stiffened. The reason was subtle, simple, and utterly damning. She had just weaponized his innate caution against him. How does she even? Yuta. What really happened? It's nothing serious. You sound nervous. I'm tired. You also sound like you're hiding something. I'm not. Silence. Not normal silence. The heavy kind. The I know you're full of crap but I'll let you talk yourself into a whole kind. Yuta, she said softly, are you in trouble? His soul left his body. And no. Did someone bother you? No. Are you hurt? No. Another pause. Are you lying to me? His pulse spiked so hard it echoed in his ears. Why would you think that? Because you're using your quirk to control your voice. And because I'm also using mine. You do that to make your voice sound flat so it won't sound nervous or give away any signs. It's good enough to fool most people, but you forget I gave birth to you. Her voice had entered the investigation mode. If she pushed any further, he would fold like wet paper. So I'll ask you one more time, dear. Where are you now? Yuda's body stood motionless. His brain, on the other hand, had gone into light speed, creating and discarding a multitude of excuses to salvage this situation. Just when Aiko was getting impatient. I was with a girl. The silence that followed was catastrophic. If God existed, he muted the entire world so his mother could properly process that sentence. A girl. She repeated, sounding like she was holding a fragile teacup that suddenly turned into a live grenade. Yuda shut his eyes. Yes, he said weakly. What kind of girl? Just a girl. From school. She wanted to talk. We hung out after school. I lost track of time and didn't notice until it was too late. There was a long pause. He prayed to every deity across every franchise. Then. Oh. Oh no. He knew that oh. That was the mother immediately recontextualizing everything she heard in the last 30 seconds. Oh. I see, she said, very calmly. Well, that's all right. You don't have to rush over. If you're spending time with someone, I don't want you sprinting across the city just for me. Though I would have appreciated a text. He was dying. He wanted to jump onto the tracks. Mom, it's not its look, I'll explain later, okay? Is she nice? Mom. I won't pry. You are absolutely prying. Just a little. He dragged a hand down his face. Be safe. And be respectful. Mom. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying something. He groaned into his palm. A chuckle came from the other end of the phone. Now I understand why I felt your nervousness and guilt bleeding from the other end of the phone. You could have just said so. No need to dance around it. She sighed. My little baby's growing up. Can we please end this embarrassing topic? I'm on the road. All right, little man. Come over tomorrow and tell me all about her. My stomach crumpled. I will. Love you, sweetheart. Love you too. The call ended. After the call bench, Yuda dropped his head back against the wall. His soul left his body. His dignity shriveled up and evaporated. I can't believe that worked. His mom was sharp, scary sharp sometimes. Not because she could read minds or detect lies, but because she always felt when something was off. Especially with him. Her quirk wasn't some super sense or heart monitor nonsense. It was subtler than that. Her quirk was called attunement. Basically, she could see and feel the emotional dissonance in people. Not through sound, not through heartbeat, not through micro-expressions, but through a faint, instinctive empathetic signal that reacts when someone she's around is distressed, hiding something, or conflicted. In simpler terms, she could feel someone's emotions. Guilt, fear, nervousness, cunning, and the likes. An emotional tuning fork, if you will. A quiet intuition sharpened by years of pulling people out of burning buildings and disaster zones. She noticed emotional tension like it was a blinking warning light. Which meant unless you were emotionally dead inside, lying to her was nearly impossible. Nearly. He sighed and slumped on the bench, pulling his hood over his eyes. I just weaponized a fake romance to escape interrogation. Honestly, it was the only thing he could think of. The only thing plausible enough to salvage the situation. Though whether this situation was salvaged or not, he didn't know. What he was sure of, was that this was totally cringe. He leaned back on the bench, staring at the ceiling of Machida Station. Just great. Now I actually have to invent a girl now. One crisis down. Infinite more to go. Yuda stared up at the ceiling of Machida Station, mentally begging the universe to give him a reset button. No such luck. He checked the time. 6:22 p.m. 7 minutes had passed. 7. He'd lived an entire emotional lifetime in those 7 minutes. His stomach growled loud enough for a passing office worker to glance at him. Traitor, he muttered at his abdomen. The reality settled in. He wasn't seeing his mom tonight. He had 40 minutes to kill. And he was starving. Fine. Food first, existential dread later. He opened his phone and typed. Cheap food near me. Options popped up instantly: ramen, convenience store bentos, skewers, a takoyaki stand 2 streets over. His eyes locked onto the takoyaki. Sold. He stood, slung his bag over one shoulder, and started weaving through the evening crowd. The lights were brighter now, the streets fuller. Machida had that many city that refuses to sleep early, feeling shops closing, shops opening, people everywhere. He followed the map. Down a main street, across a pedestrian crossing, then shortcut here. A narrow side street would cut the walking time by half. Shortcuts were a teenager's natural enemy, but he was too hungry to care. He turned in. Dim lights. Closed shutters. A vending machine humming beside a bookstore. The air smelled faintly of detergent and asphalt. Yuta walked quietly, rubbing the back of his neck, brain replaying the phone call like a bad sitcom rerun. He rounded another corner. And nearly tripped over a child. Whoa! He lurched forward, caught his balance, and looked down. A girl. A tiny girl, about 8 or 9, who had collided with him and bounced backward like she expected to be hit for it. "Oh sorry," he said, hands raised instinctively. "My bad. Didn't see you." She froze. Wide burgundy eyes stared up at him from behind messy white hair. A single small horn jutted from the right side of her forehead. Bandages wrapped around her forearms and lower legs, clean, neat, professional. Her dress looked like it hadn't been bought but issued. She was barefoot. Barefoot. In an alley. In the evening. Yuta blinked, recalibrating. Small kid. Dirty clothes. Bandages. Bare feet. Possibility number 1, runaway. Possibility number 2, pickpocket. Possibility number 3, bait for a mugging. Possibility number 4, some weird Machida situation he had zero interest in being a part of. He stepped back half a pace, not rude, just cautious. "You lost?" he asked quietly. She flinched. Not a dramatic flinch. A practiced one. Like she expected every interaction to hurt. Yuta frowned. Why does she look familiar? White hair. Red eyes. Horn. It's... The frown deepened as the nagging feeling spread. "Do I know you?" he muttered under his breath. Or is this one of those coincidences? Déjà vu perhaps? He couldn't quite remember where he had seen this face from. Could it be? She didn't answer. She just clutched her dress and stared at the ground like she was waiting for permission to breathe. This was uncomfortable. He wasn't a hero. He wasn't trained to deal with crying kids or hurt kids or whatever this was. He was exhausted, starving, and lost in a city that wasn't his. He cleared his throat. Look, you should get home. It's late. Your parents are probably..." A sound echoed from the far end of the alley. "Damn it." Yuta's face changed. "I knew it. This must be a villain robbery or something." He turned around and mobilized his chakra, ready to fight off a group of hoodlum criminals. What he actually saw was not what he expected. A tall man stepped from the shadowed end of the alley. Coat jacket. Purple feather-lined collar. White gloves. And a bird-like plague mask covering his face. Following behind him was a taller, large, muscular man dressed in a black tank top with a standby symbol and a similar plague mask. What the hell? His brain could barely process what was going on before the first man spoke. "Oh. It seems we don't have to look anymore." His eyes shifted to Yuta, showing no signs of emotion. "Not hostile. Not friendly. You're in the way," he said evenly. "Move." Yuta tried to answer, but his mouth had gone dry. The man shifted his attention past Yuta, toward the small girl behind him. "Eri." The name came out like an order. "Let's go home." The girl's entire body locked up. Her breath hitched, barely audible. Her fingers clutched her dress so tightly the fabric trembled. Fear could be seen marring her features. No, not fear, terror. Yuta blinked once. Twice. "Eri." His stomach dropped. No. No, no way. No way in hell. His brain started connecting dots he really didn't want connected. White hair. Red eyes. One horn. Bandages. Bare feet. Eri. Eri. His pulse spiked. If that was Eri. Then the man in front of him. Tall. Black shirt. White gloves. Purple feathered collar. Plague doctor mask. A second man behind him, huge, masked, silent. Recognition slammed into him like a train. No. No, no, no. Overhaul. Overhaul. Fuck. Chapter 11 Eri. Yuta blinked once. Twice. Eri. His stomach dropped. No. No, no way. No way in hell. His brain started connecting dots he really didn't want connected. White hair. Red eyes. One horn. Bandages. Bare feet. Eri. Eri. His pulse spiked. If that was Eri. Then the man in front of him. Tall. Black shirt. White gloves. Purple feathered collar. Plague doctor mask. A second man behind him, huge, masked, silent. Recognition slammed into him like a train. No. No, no, no. Overhaul. Yuta's breath stalled mid-inhale. He wasn't much of an MHA fan and had stopped at the early stages of Season 4. If he remembered right, this girl behind him, Eri, had appeared in Episode 4. Running away in the streets of the city before bumping into Deku during his work studies. And this guy before him was her tormentor. Overhaul. Leader of the Shihasaikai. But how could it be here? This shouldn't be the... His thoughts stalled. Come to think of it, the city in question where the overhaul arc took place was never named. Even if it was, he doubted he would even remember it, nor would it have been the first thing to come to mind. To think. Of all the stops I could have woken up at. Not one stop earlier or one stop later. He gritted his teeth. It just had to be here. He had wandered into that moment. Months before it was supposed to happen. Without heroes, backup, or preparation of any kind. Great. Just great. Overhaul responded indifferently. That's my daughter. It's unfortunate she had to be a disturbance. Now do yourself a favor and move. Yuta blinked. I see. Right. It's no problem. He moved out of the way with quick steps. In that case, I'll just be. Hey. He stiffened mid-speech. Two small, trembling hands clamped around Yuta's leg. He froze. Slowly carefully he looked down. Eri stared up at him, eyes wide, terrified, glassy with the kind of fear that didn't belong on a child's face. Her fingers dug into his pants like she was holding onto the last solid object in the world. The sight hit him like a punch to the chest. Hey, he whispered, barely breathing. It's okay, I didn't. Her lips moved. Help. It wasn't loud. Coming out as barely a whisper. And it shattered him. Before he could react, Overhaul spoke again, calm, flat, yet clearly irritated. Eri. She jolted like she'd been shocked. What could you possibly need help with from a stranger? He asked, tone deceptively light, almost bored. Eri didn't answer. She just pressed closer to Yuta's leg, gripping tighter, shaking harder. Yuta's mind blanked. Don't do anything crazy. Don't be rash. The thought had barely formed when he did the stupidest thing he could have done. He bent down, slipped a hand under her arms, and lifted her gently against him. A small weight, barely anything, but it felt like holding a live grenade. He turned stiffly toward Overhaul, using his quirk to keep his voice level. Your daughter seems really scared. Overhaul's gold eyes narrowed behind the mask. It's not good to pry into things that are none of your business, kid. Behind him, the larger man Rappa unmistakably shifted his stance. No threat display. Just presence. Enough to remind Yuta he was surrounded. This was suicide. Yuta swallowed, throat dry. Just when he contemplated his next move. Eri trembled in his arms. Her breath hitched. Her fingers dug into his shirt with desperate, silent force. Yuta's words hung in his throat. To think. His stomach churned despite keeping a straight face. Not due to his current deadly situation, but rather. I can feel her terror. He had seen children in his neighborhood. With dreams, aspirations, and energy. They laughed, played, cried after being bullied, and smiled while doing the bullying. Hell, he had been one of them. Yet now, the raw terror this girl's body movements radiated. From a child her age. Just what has this girl been through to react like this? It unsettled him deeply. Seconds trickled past. And the more he waited, the faster his heart ran. And in those swarming thoughts, all thinking of the best approach to this matter, a brash, impulsive one that carried little concern to self-preservation bulldozed its way to the top. Give her back. Like this? To him who'll do who knows what? Why? His eyes nearly widened at the absurdity. He didn't want to give her back. He really didn't. But what choice do I have? His heart hammered. He forced himself to breathe. Think. He had two options: fight overhaul, impossible. There was no doubt about it. Yuta wasn't dumb enough to believe he stood a solid chance at winning. He would die. One touch was all it would take. That left option 2. Escape. Compared to the first, that was doable. He didn't need to take on overhaul. He just needed to find someone who could force him to retreat without sheer force. The police? The heroes? Anyone else could help her. He couldn't fight a boss-level villain with bare hands. Escape. Just escape with her. Yuta's stance shifted slightly. I just need to get to the other end of the alley. If I can execute the body flicker again. His eyes drifted. It should work if I do it before they can react. Run. Body flicker. Grab her and go. He reached for that feeling he had earlier in the day. Chakra spread throughout his body. His mind raced, calculating angles, distance, steps. Left foot shift, lower his center of gravity, tighten his grip around Eri, flex the muscle needed to launch. He hadn't moved yet. Not consciously. But his muscles had. Tiny changes in posture. Micro-adjustments toward retreat. Signals someone like Overhaul, who specialized in biological modification, could read instantly. Ah! Overhaul tilted his head. You're thinking of running. The words landed nonchalantly. But they slammed into Yuta like a block of ice. His spine went rigid. Cold stabbed down his neck. Every cell in his body screamed, move now. The world blurred. Yuta didn't even consciously decide. His body flickered sideways, arms wrapped around Eri, as Overhaul's gloved fingers sliced through the empty air where his torso had been. The wall behind him exploded from the mist touch, stone vaporizing into dust. I should have expected a student of UA to similarly be infected with their disease of heroism. Overhaul murmured to no one. Damn it. I'm such an idiot. Reappearing, Yuta's face turned grim. If I had. His gaze briefly lingered in the wall, before turning his gaze and disappearing once again. Don't think, just get out of here. He thought, flickering towards the exit. There was no turning back now. All I have to do is. A palm slammed the ground. The ground under Yuta's feet instantly collapsed. What the? Numerous spikes emerged without warning. Instantly, the alley turned to chaos. Debris rained down in brittle clatters. Dust filled the alley, thick enough to taste. A deep rumble faded. Tch. Rappa straightened his back, unfazed by the exploding floor. Oi, Chisaki, he grunted, flicking a chunk of rubble off his shoulder. That's gonna bring heroes running. Overhaul didn't even look at him. I'm aware, he muttered, voice low with irritation. He raised a hand and brushed a fleck of dust off his glove like it was contamination. This alley is filthy enough. No need to make it worse. Rappa snorted. You did that? Overhaul's tone remained flat. I'll repair it before anyone arrives. He took a step forward. Now then. That's done. Time to get. He paused. The smoke thinned. In a small pocket of untouched ground just barely big enough to stand in, a figure crouched low, clutching a trembling girl to his chest. Yuta. Dust settled around him in slow motion. Dozens of jagged spikes surrounded the pocket he'd escaped into, inches from impaling him, forming a cage of stone fangs. Yet not one had touched him. His chest heaved. His grip around Eri tightened. And his eyes. Crimson glow. 3 tomo spinning. Sharingan. Overhaul's pupils narrowed behind the mask. HN. Would you look at that? Yuta didn't hear him. Not really. His mind was a roar of panic, instinct, and dizziness. That was too close, too close. His eyes examined the area around him, before settling on Overhaul. I did not think this through. Chapter 12, Quirk vs Quirk. Yuta stayed crouched, chest heaving, Eri squeezed tightly in his arms. His heart hammered so violently he could feel it in his teeth. It was all coming back to him now. Flashes of certain scenes, storylines, most of what he remembered of My Hero Academia. Enough to realize how bad of an idea his previous decision had been. For My Hero, Yuta had never been much of a hardcore fan. He'd stopped somewhere in Season 4 and moved on to other shows. Adding to the overhaul arc not being very memorable for him, his understanding of Kai Chisaki was skewed, to say the least. Most of the details were all mixed together. Now though, he remembered quite a bit of the fights, big scenes and just how cooked he was. I did not think this through. Overhaul's quirk ran beyond just turning people into blood bits. It worked both on the living and non-living. Just like earlier, he could reshape the entire terrain for dozens of meters in an instant. All with nothing but a touch. Without the Sharingan, Yuta would have been impaled in seconds. His gaze fell on Overhaul, who was staring back, expression unreadable behind the mask. "You're more troublesome than you look," he said quietly. "Stand up." Yuta did not. He flicked his gaze to the alley entrance and his heart sank. The alley entrance behind him was sealed collapsed rubble and twisted rebar forming an impenetrable wall. The spikes boxed him in on three sides. There was nowhere to go except back. That way was being blocked by Overhaul and Rappa. Trapped. The word echoed in his skull like a death sentence. Overhaul took another step forward, boots crunching over broken stone. "Interesting quirk you have. Speed alongside an ocular mutation. Enhanced perception, perhaps? But it won't help you." Yuta's eyes narrowed. "To think you would use such an attack while I was holding her. You're not afraid of her getting injured? Or killed? Just lets me know she truly isn't your daughter." Overhaul's eyes narrowed. "While I am surprised you could dodge that much, it's just that your quirk doesn't seem interesting enough to be worth keeping around." He stretched, pulling off one of his gloves. "So I'll be taking Eri back now. There's no point in stalling." "You can't win," Overhaul said quietly. Yuta's jaw clenched. "Last chance. Give her back." Overhaul continued, "I'll let you leave if you walk away." "Bullshit," Yuta rasped. Overhaul's eyes narrowed. "You're right." He pulled off his other glove. "But I thought I'd offer." "Both hands, bare now." Yuta's heart hammered. "Move." "I have to move." His eyes darted rapidly. The world looked different through the Sharingan. Too sharp. Too clear. Every detail screamed at him, and his reaction time had gone up drastically. "The exit is sealed. I can either attempt to get past Overhaul, or..." His eyes turned upwards. "I can go." Immediately, he moved. Up. Jumping out of the spiky cage around him, he flickered to the wall, when the walls shifted, spikes jutting out before he could even place his feet on them. Damn it! He dodged backwards, body twisting as he avoided the rapid attacks coming from all directions with predictive insight. "It's fine. I just have to..." Squelch! Yuta's eyes widened as the sound of piercing flesh resounded filled his ears. His body flicker came to a halt. His gaze turned, fixing on the spike that came out of nowhere, now piercing through his shoulder. "I didn't..." There was only so much space in a narrow alleyway. Plus his proficiency with the body flicker jutsu was minimal. That fact that he could use it as well as he could was testament to his quirk's ability. Blood ran down the piece of earth piercing through him. Then pain came in a flood he had never experienced before. "Ugh! Damn, that hurts!" He winced, facial features crumpling as he used his quirk to suppress the pain and stop the bleeding. Squelch! Without hesitation, he yanked his shoulder out, leaving scraps of flesh behind. The pain momentarily came back again, before being dampened. He turned his gaze, just in time to receive another barrage of earth spikes. Meanwhile, "I can't drag this out much longer." The villain watched with mounting irritation as the brat evaded yet again another attack. The heroes will show up soon at this rate. The troubles that'll follow will be a pain to deal with. The revelation only served to irritate him further. Tch. A mess. His hands on the floor clenched. Boom. Everything on the other end turned into a maze of crossing spikes, jutting in all directions. It was one thing to kill an idiot who put himself in the way. That took no effort. But he had seen the uniform the brat had worn. A UA student, no doubt. First Eri, now this. To think this accursed day could get worse. A child from there disappearing especially so soon after the USJ incident would ignite scrutiny he did not need. Hero Society's eyes would tilt in his direction. And attention, to Kai Chisaki, was a disease far more troublesome than the one he intended to cure. If the boy had simply walked away, if he had simply minded his own business, Chisaki would have allowed it. A stain not worth scrubbing. A variable with a predictable, controllable outcome. But he hadn't. He'd interfered. Protected the girl. Clung to some misguided notion of salvation. Now. I will teach him. The idiocracy of his actions. Rows of spiked earth shot out once more. Impaling the position the boy had been but a second ago. TCH. No doubt, the repeated dodging was getting annoying. The boy's speed was fast. Incredibly so. However, signs clearly showed that this speed wasn't consistent. His ability to make high-speed maneuvers was clearly limited in that speed, and it looked taxing to keep up. He was fast, but without a shred of experience in properly using his powers, much less combat. He had no desire to fight, focusing all his efforts on fleeing and evading. The earlier strike showed that his movements were predictable, but his eyes. That's how he keeps dodging. Overhaul's eyes narrowed. In that case, try dodging what you can't see. The battlefield changed instantly. Every spike shattered into dust, clouding Yuta's view. Fragments of earth flew over. Yuta shielded his eyes instinctively. What is he? Crack crunch crack. The ground convulsed. His gaze lowered. Under his Sharingan, spikes erupted from the floor, shooting towards him at rapid speeds. He immediately kicked off the earth, the spikes extended after him, stopping just below his current height of elevation. That was close. He hadn't finished his thoughts when the walls on both sides morphed before shooting forward. Yuta's eyes widened as he leaned with all his strength. Blood spilled into the air. The two spikes sliced the edge of his neck and leg, drawing blood from fresh wounds. Narrowly, avoiding certain impalement, Yuta, whose sense of pain had been suppressed, placed one leg on the extended spike before pushing off just in time to avoid the spikes exploding. His scalp tingled at the sight. He had just leaped off with no intention of dodging anything originally. If he hadn't, his legs would currently be mincemeat. Damn it! I wasn't even trying to dodge that. He landed on his feet, face incomparably grim. The Sharingan darted rapidly, trying to predict where the next one would come from. This is bad. Beads of sweat had begun accumulating over him. His breathing was uneven and his body ached. For the current him, the body flicker jutsu was physically demanding. That wasn't even accounting for chakra expenditure. Now, he couldn't even think about escaping. He could only keep his attention solely devoted to not dying. I can't even. They emerged once again. Spikes erupted from the walls, floor, everywhere. Yuta barely had time to react. Luckily, his eyes weren't normal. With the Sharingan, he twisted, sidestepped, leapt, and chakra walked all over the dangerous landscape. Until he stood in a position where regular movements wouldn't cut it anymore. Chakra spread throughout his body, once again ready to dodge when his body movements faltered. Not from an external attack, but an internal one. What the? His body flicker ceased midway, throwing his movements out of order. If he hadn't suppressed his sense of pain, his entire body would throb with it by now. My body can't. The thoughts just formed when. Squelch! A spike grazed his thigh. Another tore across his shoulder, further restricting his movements. Blood ran freely. Yuta's eyes narrowed. He ignored it, forcing his focus back on his surroundings with darting eyes. Crack! Another attack, one he couldn't dodge this time. From behind, a spike shot straight toward his back, aimed to pierce through him, and most likely Eri on the other side. Instinct took over. He threw her forward. Squelch! The spike dug into his back, emerging just centimeters from his chest. Blood spilled from his lips. But his organs didn't rupture. His heart didn't stop. Inside, everything shifted. Bones moved. Muscles compressed. Organs slid out of the way in ways no human body should have been able to manage. His quirk working on pure survival instinct. Eri, thrown forward earlier and now curled on the ground, looked up. Her eyes widened. Stop! Her voice cracked as she pleaded to him. Her guardian. The man questioned didn't respond. Instead his eyes narrowed upon the impaled Yuta as his hand fell. Yuda's eyes widened. Don't kill him! Eri cried. Her voice drowned in her own sobbing. Stop! Please stop! Overhaul's hand paused before it hit the ground. Before it could finish him off. Still conscious, Yuda's brows furrowed at his actions. Is he? The thought died before it could bloom. No way would he entertain the possibility that Overhaul had stopped simply because Eri told him to. Eri! Overhaul's voice cut through the silence. This is your fault. Sure enough, he was right. Eri flinched, head lowering. This, he gestured lazily at the carnage, is the result of your choices. Had you stayed put, none of this would have occurred. Overhaul hadn't stopped out of compassion, but out of irritation. He looked at her, at the boy pinned to the wall of earth like some dissected experiment, and exhaled through his mask. And now he has to die because of your selfishness. No, Eri choked out. Please. Begging won't change anything. Overhaul lowered his hand. The ground beneath Eri shifted, pulling her toward him like the earth itself obeyed his will. She slid across the dirt, helpless. Squelch! At the same time, Yuda tore himself free. Flesh ripped and blood dyed the earth red. A momentary grimace crowned his features before suppressing it. You're still moving. Overhaul's hand shifted. The land Yuda stood was instantly riddled with spikes. TCH. Again. Midway through his thoughts, he appeared. One instant he was away, the next he was right in front of Overhaul, shoulder bleeding, breathing ragged, eyes burning red. He swung. A desperate, brutal punch that forced Overhaul to shift his stance just slightly, just enough to jerk Eri's drifting body out of his direct reach. I can't. Yuda's vision doubled, then restabilized through the Sharingan's auto-correction. Let you take her back. Every instinct in his body screamed at him to run. Running was logical. Running was survival. But if Overhaul got her back, then all of this, every stupid choice he'd made, every wound carved into him, every risk, would become meaningless. He swallowed the tremor in his chest. Focus. His feet adjusted. Weight low. Hands up. His mind cleared into that narrow space where fear and intention blurred into one sharp purpose. If he couldn't escape under Chisaki's watch, then I'll just knock you out. He didn't need to knock him out. Honestly, he wasn't even sure he could. He just needed to land the hit. His chakras surged. Muscles tensed. His leg twisted into the form he'd performed 1,000 times in the community gym near the Hinohara Hero Agency. Finally. Finally. Those martial arts classes he took to boost stamina had a purpose. His heel carved through the air in a tight arc. A roundhouse kick, clean, fast, enhanced with chakra amplification. Slammed into Overhaul's guard. Thud. The impact shuddered through both of them. Overhaul blocked with his left arm. Crack. The bone gave way. His stance buckled half a step. A shock rippled up his shoulder. Yuda's eyes lit up. Gotcha. He didn't need to win. He didn't need to overpower him. He just needed a few seconds. A single opening. Just one chance to grab Eri and... Something flickered in the corner of his Sharingan vision. A tiny movement. Barely anything. A twitch of Overhaul's right hand. Not even a grab. Just a graze. A flick of a bare fingertip brushing across Yuda's forearm as he spun from the kick. A touch he didn't have the space, stamina, or angle left to evade. His breath hitched. His body froze. No pain. No sound. Just the horrifying sensation of everything inside him going rigid at once. Like his blood turned to stone. Like the world had been paused. Overhaul exhaled once. Got you. Chapter 13 Mugen Koya. Time seemed to freeze in the split second. In it, came absolute silence. In that very moment, he felt a sensation that he had never felt before. Like every cell in his body simultaneously stopped heeding his call. His lungs refused to draw air. His veins bulged, his spine tingled. But none of it was natural, and none of it was his doing. Something else pulsed under his skin, through his blood, but it wasn't anything he could grab hold of. His skin stretched, his tissues expanded, and until... Squelch! Blood exploded outward as if his entire body had turned inside out. The earth beside Overhaul was dyed red. In the distance, Eri froze mid-step, pupils shrinking in horror. What remained of Yuta hit the ground in a collapsed mass the shape of a human only in the loosest definition. Muscle sheared into ribbons. What the? Overhaul's pupils shrunk to slits. Bone half dissolved. Organs slumped and barely intact. A thin, stubborn network of tissue clung together around a faintly beating heart. That's... The organs were covered, his skeletal structure held barely, and only a few strands of hair remained on his head. The vast majority of his skin, however, was another story. It looked like a scene straight from a horror movie. Nevertheless, one simple fact remained. I'm still alive. Yuta's consciousness was extremely hazy. The past second felt like he had fought a brutal war. He could feel his cells vibrating, shifting, caught in a ceaseless struggle between being broken down and held together. And for a moment, he had nearly lost. His quirk seemed to feel the same as the next action it took was completely out of his control. It gave up. Ceasing the struggle and yielding control over the cells it had lost, then hunkered down on what was left and refused to back down. As if possessing autonomous thought, or basic survival instinct, it prioritized his life above all else. Held together by raw, desperate instinct, and his quirk refusing to release anything else. The result was right before him. Blood rushes like a river, and even with his pain suppressed, everything hurt. If not, he would have likely passed out after the first second. Damn! He's still alive. Rappa's voice cut through the settling mist of blood, rough and almost impressed. He tilted his head at the twitching, barely recognizable mess on the floor. Then turned to Overhaul. Oi, boss! You didn't hold back, right? Overhaul didn't answer immediately. He just stared. Motionless. Silent. Eyes narrowed to thin, trembling slits behind his mask. What lay at his feet was not a person. It wasn't even a corpse. It was a mistaken impossibility held together by sheer refusal to die. No, he finally said, voice dark and low. I didn't hold back. Rappa blinked. Then how the hell? It shouldn't. Overhaul's voice cut in. He took a step closer, boots squelching softly in the blood-soaked dirt. His shadow dragged across Yuta's collapsed form. Hands clenching. Normally, this shouldn't be possible. His gaze scanned the remains, bone shards trying to knit, organs flickering between dissolution and form, strips of muscle twitching as if attempting to remember their shape. And that faint heartbeat. Weak. Incoherent. Yet annoyingly alive. How? No one has ever resisted deconstruction before. His eyes scanned Yuta's body intently. Yet you can resist it. However barely you did. Rappa folded his arms. TCH. Looks more dead than alive to me. That's what makes him valuable, Overhaul said, rising to his feet. Rappa. Bring him. We're taking the body. Twitched. With energy from who knows where, the head raised to stare Overhaul dead in the eye. Overhaul scoffed. Still intent on. The next action happened before he could finish. Inside Yuta's body, a metamorphosis had taken place. Under some unseen force, his cells began proliferating rapidly. Alongside it came a guess of energy previously in short supply. The shape in those scarlet eyes morphed into something new, blood pooling from the sides. 3 points condensing and expanding to form a black and red pattern. Hey! Overhaul took a step back. It was too late though. The moment the pattern settled fully in Yuta's eyes, color drained from the world. With tunneling vision, everything shifted before resetting into something else. By the time he gained his senses, he was no longer in the alley in Machida but an empty wasteland. A crimson sky stretched endlessly in all directions. No sun. No clouds, and a blood-red moon hanging overhead, casting everything in deep scarlet light. The ground beneath his feet was solid. Cracked. Like dried earth that had seen no rain in centuries. Overhaul's eyes darted left, then right. His breathing remained steady. Controlled. But his fingers flexed. Where is this? His voice echoed. Once. Twice. No response. His brows narrowed. TCH. Just before he could do anything else. So this is the power of the Mangekyo Sharingan, hey. Overhaul's head snapped up. Yuta stood 20 meters away. Or what was left of him. The same ruined organs. The same exposed ribs. Bone jutted through skin. His organs were visible through gaps in his torso. He looked exactly as he had in the real world except he was standing upright like the damage meant nothing. And those eyes, those black and red spiraling eyes, were open, bleeding fresh trails down what remained of his face. Yuta wasn't looking at him. He was looking at his own hands. Flexing fingers that shouldn't exist. Examining the state of his body with fascinated curiosity. No wonder Sasuke was drunk on power, Yuta muttered, closing his eyes, voice distant. If I had this, saving Eri would have been a breeze. Overhaul's eyebrow twitched. Mangekyo Sharingan. He repeated in a low tone. Human delusion truly has no limits. Even after I showed you the difference in our abilities, you still think you can take Eri from me. His expression cooled further. I don't have time for this. Yuta's eyes snapped up. The ground beneath Chisaki fractured like cracked glass, then erupted. Dozens of black spikes shot upward in a single instant. No warning or build-up. They pierced his legs, his chest, his shoulders. His body jerked. His face twisted, first in instinctive shock, then fury, then frozen mid-expression as more spikes erupted through his spine and skull. Yuta's voice followed a second later, quiet and cold. Let's see how you like it. In the real world, Overhaul's body convulsed. Rappa was stunned. Boss. Squelch. Holes tore open across Overhaul's body. Blood burst outward from his legs, his chest, his neck, as if invisible spears had run him through. Exactly where they had in the wasteland. He didn't even have time to scream. His head snapped back. His left eye exploded. His consciousness was snuffed out before he could use his quirk on himself. Overhaul's body twitched slightly, and collapsed lifelessly under everyone's gazes. Chapter 14 Kendo Rappa. Ha! 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 The silence of the alley was broken by the sounds of heavy breathing. Overhaul's body hit the ground in a wet collapse, limbs limp, torso still twitching from the aftershocks of a death it hadn't had time to process. Steam curled from the punctures tearing through his skin, blood pooling beneath him in sluggish spreads. Crouched in a pool of his own blood, Yuta's mangled chest heaved irregularly as he stared at Overhaul's corpse. The Sharingan in Yuta's eyes faded. What came in its place was a nerve-wracking pain, deep exhaustion, and the knowledge that he had just survived the most dangerous encounter of his life. I did it. The thought wore in. Kai Chisaki was history, and he had been the one to achieve it. Though arguably not a reason to celebrate, his survival of what should have been certain death at the hands of someone far stronger than him certainly was. His condition, however, said otherwise. Puff. Blood spilled from his lips. He tried to stand and failed as his legs lost all strength, causing him to support himself with his skeletal arms to avoid falling. Examining his body state, his bloody features turned grim. First, Overhaul, then this. It's a double miracle I'm still alive. That, unfortunately, wouldn't last long. His quirk had already done the impossible by surviving deconstruction. The burst of chakra that allowed him to use the Mangekyo Sharingan was a feat of nigh equal weight, though he probably had Overhaul to thank for that. Expecting it to sustain him for long without any assistance was a pipe dream. He needed a hospital, fast. However, reality dictated that he couldn't even walk. Forget about recovering from this, he would die here if no one found him. Even if he didn't, that was just one problem from a whole bag. There was also Eri. Yuta's eyes widened. Where's Eri? Eri. The name left his cracked lips in a whisper, barely audible even to himself. His blurry eyes swept the alley, panic stirring through the haze of pain as he searched for any sign of her small form. He found her. 10 meters away. Crumpled on the ground, teary eyes staring at him unblinkingly. However, the sight of someone else caused a tremor to run down his spine. Not from pain this time, but from a cold realization that despite Overhaul's death, he wasn't alone. Yuta's gaze dragged upward. There, behind Eri, half shrouded by the darkness near the wall, stood Rappa. Arms crossed, eyes staring with an unnerving intensity. He hadn't moved since Overhaul fell. He simply watched. He had watched everything. Yuta's throat tightened. During the fight, he'd been aware barely that Rappa was still a problem, still conscious. But after killing Overhaul, after the shock and the pain slammed into him all at once, Rappa had slipped to the edges of his awareness. Overshadowed by imminent death. Now, with nothing left in him but willpower and shredded muscle fibers, the weight of Rappa's presence hit him fully. If Rappa wanted revenge for his fallen boss, if he wanted to finish what Overhaul started, Yuta couldn't even lift an arm to defend himself. Instinctively, Yuta activated the Sharingan, or tried to, only to realize that he was well out of chakra. His trembling body staggered even more as blood flowed. Just then. She's fine. Rappa finally spoke. His voice was coarse, carrying a strange mix of annoyance and respect. He stepped forward, an action that made Yuta tense. However, Rappa paid him no heed. When he reached Overhaul's corpse, he nudged it with his boot, exhaling through his nose. Boss. No answer. The only sound was the fading drip of blood, tapping rhythmically against concrete. He wasn't a doctor, but he'd seen enough broken bodies to know what a corpse looked like. Overhaul was gone. You really did it, he muttered. The bastard's dead. He laughed. Ha, kid, you've got stones. Yuta swallowed, tasting iron. He tried to stand again, and failed. Rappa watched him struggle for a moment, then shook his head. Don't bother. You're done. Anyone can see that. He crouched beside Yuta, studying the mangled mess of bone and blood that used to be a functional body. Honestly, it's a miracle you're still breathing. He had been in a lot of fighting rings, and seen people get life-threatening injuries. Rappa had never cared about gore. Fighting men, breaking men, being broken himself, none of it bothered him. But this went beyond anything he'd ever seen. Hell of a kid. Rappa thought, genuinely impressed. He turned back to Overhaul's body, crouching beside it with a tight frown. There was no rage in him. Rappa was a man who lived purely for the thrill of battle, violence, and bloodshed. He fought men to test them, to prove strength, not to avenge philosophy. His following of Overhaul was for one reason only. He had beaten him in one-on-one combat. Loyalty? That wouldn't mean as much to him as a good fight would. Nevertheless, Overhaul had been his boss and was stronger than him. Dying like this was unacceptable. He stood, cracking his neck once. Guess that makes the score 1-1, he said quietly, voice steady. Damn shame you won't get the rematch. He stepped back, rolling his shoulders. Now came the question of what to do with the kid. Rappa glanced at Yuta's deteriorating form, then at Eri standing frozen nearby. The kid had guts. Real guts. The kind Rappa respected. Shame. He scooped Yuta up carefully this time, mindful of the flesh threatening to tear completely. The kid's breathing was shallow. Fading. All right, kid. Let's. Weo weo weo. Sirens. Distant, but closing fast. Rappa's head snapped toward the alley entrance. Red and blue lights flickered against the far wall. TCH. He set Yuta back down, not roughly, but not gently either. There wasn't time for gentle. Guess that's my cue. Eri's eyes went wide. Wait. Can't stick around, kid. Rappa straightened, already backing toward the opposite exit. Heroes show up, they see me with Overhaul's corpse and a dying brat? That's a conversation I'm not having. He jerked his thumb toward the approaching sirens. They'll patch him up. Probably. But. You want him to live? Stay with him. Scream when they get close. Make noise. They'll find you. With that, Rappa turned and bolted into the shadows, his heavy footsteps fading into the maze of backstreets. Eri stood frozen for a heartbeat. Then she looked down at Yuta. He wasn't moving anymore. His chest barely rose. Blood pooled around him like a crimson halo. No. Her legs moved on their own. She stumbled forward, dropping to her knees beside him, hands hovering uselessly over his mangled body. She didn't know where to touch. Didn't know what to do. And no. The sirens grew louder. Yuta's eyelids fluttered. His lips moved, but no sound came out. Please. Eri's voice cracked. Please don't die. Her quirk pulsed uncontrolled, panicked rippling outward in invisible waves. You saved me. Tears streamed down her face. You can't just. Eri's small hands gripped the tattered remains of Yuta's shirt. Help! She screamed, somebody help! Yuta's consciousness flickered. The last thing he saw before darkness claimed him completely was Eri's tear-streaked face, lit by flashing red and blue. Then. Nothing. Chapter 15. You've gotta be kidding me. 1. UA. High School Class 1A. 12:35 p.m. The lunch bell rang. Immediately, the classroom erupted into motion. Students stretched, grabbed lunch boxes, complained about morning classes. Midoriya stood up, adjusting his bag. Ida, Eureka, you coming to lunch? Ida was already halfway to the door, arms chopping mechanically. Of course. Proper nutrition is essential for afternoon performance. Eureka started to stand then paused. Mina and Momo were huddled around Toru's desk. Whispering. Toru's sleeves were gripping the edge of her desk. Eureka blinked. I'll catch up with you guys. We have a situation. Midoriya followed her gaze. Is Hagakure okay? I think so. Maybe. She walked over. By the time she got there, Mina was mid-negotiation. Toru. Come on. It's just lunch. I know. So let's go. Do we have to? Momo sighed. Yes. You need to eat. I brought a granola bar. That's not a meal. It's food. Mina crouched beside the desk. Okay, what's going on? You were fine this morning. Toru's sleeves fidgeted. I was not fine this morning. You came to class. Under duress. Eureka tilted her head. You're still thinking about that book thing. Toru's sleeves stiffened. Maybe. Toru. Look, I know it sounds ridiculous, but getting hit twice in 2 days by the same person feels like the universe is laughing at me. Ashui, sitting nearby, raised a hand. To be fair, he probably didn't see you either time. Ribbit. That doesn't make it better. Mina stood up, hands on her hips. Okay. Real talk. Do you actually think he did it on purpose? No. Then what's the problem? Toru's sleeves gestured vaguely. I just don't want round 3, okay? Momo pinched the bridge of her nose. Toru, you're being irrational. Maybe. But it's my irrational. Mina exchanged a glance with Momo. Then she grinned. Fine. New plan. You come with us to return the book. If he's a jerk, you can yell at him. If he's not, you get closure. Toru's sleeves went rigid. What? No. Absolutely not. Come on, Eureka added. It'll be quick. Just hand it over and leave. You don't need me for that. But we want you there, Momo said. Moral support. Toru groaned. Fine. But if he's the same guy, I'm giving him a piece of my mind. She raised her invisible fists, shaking them with exaggerated menace. I'll pound him. Mina snorted. Sure you will. I'm serious. The group headed toward the door. Toru trailed behind, muttering to herself. This is a terrible idea. Absolutely terrible. Cafeteria 12:47 p.m. The cafeteria was packed. Students from all courses crammed into tables, voices overlapping into a dull roar. Mina scanned the room, textbook tucked under her arm. Okay. So. Where does General Studies sit? Momo pointed toward the far left section. Over there. Grey badges. Got it. They wove through the tables, dodging trays and backpacks. Mina's eyes scanned faces. Red hair. Red hair. Where's the red hair? There. Eureka pointed. A table in the corner. 3 students. No red hair. Mina frowned. That's not him. Maybe he's not here. Ashui suggested. Momo squinted. Wait. I recognize them. From where? The tray incident. Mina's eyes lit up. Oh. You're right. She walked over. The 3 students looked up as she approached. A girl with flowers growing from her hair, Hana. A boy with color-shifting skin, Kimura. Another boy with glasses, Tanaka. Mina smiled. Hey. Sorry to bother you guys. Hana blinked. Oh. You're from Hero Course, right? Yep. Mina Ashido. She gestured to the others. This is Yayorozu, Eureka, Ashui, and Hagakure. Polite nods all around. Kimura leaned back. If this is about the tray thing, that wasn't our fault. Oh, no, we know. Actually, we're looking for someone. Tanaka adjusted his glasses. Who? Mina held up the textbook. This belonged to someone named Yuta Akutami. All 3 of them froze. Then Hana grinned. Oh man! What did he do now? Mina blinked. So it's him, hey. Nothing? We just need to return his book. His book, Kimura repeated. Yet. That he lost. Yet. Tanaka muttered, of course he did. Momo stepped forward. Is he here? Hana's grin faded slightly. Actually, no. He didn't show up today. Didn't show up? Yurika asked. Kimura shrugged. Nope. Wasn't in homeroom. Wasn't in first period. Haven't seen him all day. Tanaka nodded. Which is weird. He's usually here. Toru's sleeves crossed. Maybe he's sick. Maybe, Hana said, though she sounded uncertain. But he didn't message the group chat or anything. Mina frowned. Hey. Momo cleared her throat. Well. When he gets back, could you give this to him? She handed the textbook to Hana. Hana took it, flipping it open. Yeah, no problem. Thanks. The 4 girls and 1 invisible girl walked away. Once they were out of earshot, Yurika whispered. That was weird, right? Momo nodded. A little. Ashui tilted her head. Maybe he really is sick. Ribbit. Toru's sleeves relaxed slightly. Well, at least I didn't have to yell at him. Mina grinned. There's always tomorrow. Back at the table, Hana set the textbook down. Kimura stared at it. So. Where do you think he is? Tanaka pushed his glasses up. Probably sleeping in and forgot to wake up. Does he seem like that kind of guy? Hana didn't respond. She just stared at the book, fingers drumming against the cover. Yet. Probably. The human body had, what was it, 30 trillion cells? 50? He couldn't remember right. But during the last moments of consciousness, Yuta was damn well sure that something was fundamentally wrong with his. He felt it in the last seconds, like threads tightening, shifting, misfiring, doing things cells had no right to do. But even that sensation faded. And then he fell. Into infinite darkness. There was no floor. No sky. No up. No down. Just drifting slow, weightless, meaningless. For a while, he wandered. Or, floated. Or simply existed, suspended in something that wasn't quite oblivion. Is this death? He wondered, utterly confused. Why is it so loud? He couldn't tell where it was coming from, but somewhere far away, someone was shouting. Not words, just noise. Urgent, shaking, tearing itself against the edges of his fading consciousness. Then came the cold. A rush of it. Air. Hands. Voices. Metal clattered. Someone cursed. Someone else yelled for a stretcher. His body was turned, lifted, dragged, he couldn't feel which. A stray thought drifted through the dark like a leaf. I'm already dead. Why does dying involve so much yelling? The world swallowed him again before he got an answer. Light. Sound. Pain. Too much pain. Yuta's eyelids twitched. Something beeped steadily beside him. A soft blanket weighed down his legs. He smelled antiseptic strong enough to sting. Hospital. He didn't open his eyes immediately. His head felt like it was packed with wet sand. And then. So we're all in agreement that he shouldn't be alive. That's what the scans say. What about the bones? Which ones? Exactly. Voices whispered somewhere to the left of his bed. Medical staff. More than one. Another voice chimed in, younger, probably an intern. I'm just saying, I don't think rib cages are supposed to fold. Nothing about this kid is supposed to do anything, Suzuki. A sigh. Honestly, I think his survival is a crime against medical science. Someone else mumbled, please don't say that while he's unconscious. I mean it as a compliment. There was shuffling. Paper rustling. Someone tapped a clipboard. Anyway, the girl's in the waiting area. Hasn't moved in hours. If she could starve by worrying, she'd be gone. The words pierced through the haze. Eri? Yuta's fingers twitched. A nurse gasped softly. He tried to move. Oh, thank God, someone alert Dr. Ishikawa. No, wait, he's in surgery, someone alert. Someone else. More footsteps. More panic. Yuta forced his eyes open. The ceiling was white. Bright. Mockingly bright. He turned his head. And immediately regretted it. Pain flared viciously through his torso. He hissed sharply. There. See? He's alive. The intern squeaked. Looks miserable but alive. For someone who worked under Recovery Girl, I can confidently say this is a medical miracle. Yuta glared in the general direction of the voice. Please. He rasped, stop, celebrating my suffering. A woman in a white coat stepped into view. Mid-40s, short hair, tired eyes, and the kind of expression that said she'd seen too much weird shit to be surprised by anything anymore. Mr. Akutami, she said flatly. Welcome back to the land of the living. I'm Dr. Ishikawa. Yuta blinked slowly. Thought you were in surgery. I was. Finished early. She pulled up a chair and sat down with the posture of someone who'd given up on proper bedside manner years ago. Let's skip the pleasantries. You were brought in 3 days ago looking like someone put you through a meat grinder. Backwards. 3 days. Dr. Ishikawa nodded. 72 hours, give or take a few minutes. You were unconscious for most of it and semi-conscious for the rest. Mostly mumbling nonsense. Mumbling. Her expression didn't change. Indeed. Yuta's eyes slipped half shut again. So the mumbling wasn't a language, right? Oh no, the intern said. No human dialect. Just chaos. What kind of chaos? He cleared his throat. He said, and I quote, if I die, delete my browser history. Yuta wished very sincerely that he were dead. Dr. Ishikawa cut in sharply. Enough. He doesn't need to hear the rest. Which implied there was a rest. Yuta groaned. That was taken out of context. Was it? The intern asked. Yes, Yuta lied. Dr. Ishikawa moved on mercifully. Mr. Akutami, let's divert to the important part. Her tone shifted to a cooler, much more professional tone. In all my years, you have the most outrageous vitality I have ever seen. Yuta cautiously opened his eyes. Meaning? Meaning that when you were brought in, your body was damaged beyond the threshold of what even the esteemed recovery girl could heal efficiently, she said matter-of-factly. Frankly, you shouldn't have survived long enough for us to even consider treatment. Then how am I alive? She folded her arms. Because apparently, your body decided medical logic was optional. He blinked, baffled. She continued, all we did was hook you up to life support and keep your organs functioning. The rest, she gestured at him with an odd mixture of irritation and reluctant admiration, you did. In 3 days. He stared. 3 days, of healing. Chapter 16. You've got to be kidding me too. Not healing. Healing implies scarring and recovery time. She lifted a tablet, tapping a few images open. What your body did is closer to reconstruction. Dr. Ishikawa turned the tablet toward him. Yuta blinked. The picture on screen was a corpse. Or close enough. Skin sloughed off. Entire patches missing. Muscle torn, charred, shredded. Bones visible in ways bones were not meant to be visible. He sucked in a sharp breath. That's me. That was you, the doctor corrected. 72 hours ago. Your organs were shutting down, your circulatory system was a disaster. Bone marrow damage, internal bleeding. Frankly, you should have gone into full-blown cardiac arrest before the ambulance even reached Machida's outskirts. She returned her attention to Yuta. And yet. She gestured to him again, this time broadly. You're here. Awake. With intact skin. I've read your file, and despite the vast difference, I can only conclude that this was a result of your quirk keeping you from death. Yuta swallowed. I don't feel great. That's because your pain receptors are trying to unionize, she said dryly. But compared to where you started? You're shockingly stable. He hesitated. Can I see? She understood immediately. Without a word, she reached into a cabinet, retrieved a hand mirror, and placed it in his palm. Yuta took a breath slow, careful, then angled the mirror. His reflection stared back. Paler than usual. Eyes slightly sunken. Hair a mess. But he looked normal. Anyway, your vitals stabilized last night, so we moved you out of critical care. You're in Machida General now. A sigh. Small miracles and large paperwork made that happen. Yuta frowned. Machida. His eyes suddenly widened. Wait, does my mom? Yes. The single word hit him harder than overhaul ever could. She's been here the entire time, Dr. Ishikawa added. Hasn't left except to use the restroom and meet with officials. Yuta's stomach dropped. Oh no. Oh yes. She's going to kill me. She seemed more concerned with keeping you alive, actually. Dr. Ishikawa stepped aside and pointed to the glass wall. They're just outside. His mother, asleep in a wheelchair. A thin blanket draped over her. Her head resting against her hand. Breathing softly, exhaustion pulling at every line of her face. Yuta's throat tightened painfully. She shouldn't be. Ishikawa cut in. She wouldn't leave. Not even when we insisted. She rolled herself here despite 2 nurses begging her not to travel alone. That sounds like her. Terrifying woman, Ishikawa agreed. Then stepped back toward the door. We'll update you on your injuries once you're more alert. For now, don't move. Don't twist. Don't sit up. Don't be clever, and don't pass out again. We're low on 4 lines. That's not comforting. It wasn't meant to be. Dr. Ishikawa left. The door clicked shut. Silence. Yuta stared through the glass at his mother. She looked smaller than he remembered. Thinner. The blanket had slipped halfway off her shoulder, and no one had fixed it. 3 days. 3 days she'd been here. Waiting. Watching. Probably blaming herself for not noticing something sooner. His chest felt tight. He tried to sit up. Pain lanced through his torso, immediately sharp, vicious, and completely unforgiving. He collapsed back with a hiss. Okay. Bad idea. Very bad idea. He lay there, breathing carefully, staring at the ceiling. The door opened again. Yuta's head turned slightly. A nurse, the same one from earlier, stepped in quietly, glancing at him. Oh. You're still awake? Barely. She walked over to check the 4 line, then paused. Do you want me to wake her? Yuta hesitated. Then nodded. Yeah. Please. The nurse stepped outside. Through the glass, Yuta watched her gently touch his mother's shoulder. Aiko stirred. Blinked. Sat up too fast, winced, then turned her head toward the room. Their eyes met. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Aiko was wheeling herself forward, hands gripping the wheels with more force than necessary. The nurse opened the door. Aiko rolled in. She stopped beside his bed, hands folded tightly in her lap. Her eyes were red-rimmed. Her hair was a mess. She looked like she hadn't slept properly in days. Because she hadn't. Yuta. Hi, Mom. For a long moment, she just stared at him. Then she reached out slowly, carefully, and placed her hand on top of his. Her fingers were cold. 3 days, she whispered. I heard. He said while evading her gaze. Look at me. He obeyed. Her eyes were watering now. I thought I lost you. I'm sorry. She closed her eyes. Breathed. Don't you ever do that to me again. Yuta's throat tightened. I'll try. That's not good enough. I know. She wiped her eyes quickly, like she was angry at herself for crying. Silence settled between them for a moment. Then Aiko's expression hardened. What happened? Yuta looked away. It's complicated. Uncomplicate it. He exhaled slowly. I don't remember much, he said quietly. Just. I saw a kid. She looked terrified. And I couldn't. He paused. I couldn't find the strength to leave her there. Aiko's hand tightened on his. He could feel it, the faint hum of her quirk. She was reading him, and he could make a good guess why. But it didn't matter. Because technically, it wasn't a lie. Aries' situation was exactly as he'd described. Any guilt or nervousness she picked up could be attributed to him feeling bad about lying on the phone. About putting himself in danger. About making her worry. Not about killing someone. Aiko's expression softened. Just slightly. The girl, she said quietly. Airi. Yuta nodded. Is she okay? Aiko hesitated. Physically, yes. The doctors cleared her. She paused. Emotionally, she's traumatized, Yuta. She won't speak to anyone. Won't eat unless someone sits with her. She's been through hell. Yuta's jaw tightened. Aiko watched him carefully. I met her, she continued. She's sweet. Scared. But sweet. She squeezed his hand. I understand why you couldn't walk away. Yuta glanced at her. But you're 15, Aiko said firmly. You could have died. You almost died. I know. And yet you'd do it again, wouldn't you? Yuta didn't answer. Aiko's expression crumpled slightly. You're just like your father, she whispered. Yuta blinked. What? She lifted her head, eyes wet. Reckless. Stubborn. Too brave for your own good. She squeezed his hand. He would have done the same thing. Yuta didn't know what to say. Aiko wiped her eyes again and straightened. We'll talk more later. Right now she gave him a look. We need to discuss why you lied to me on the phone. Yuta groaned. Can we skip that part? Absolutely not. Worth a shot. Aiko's expression shifted something between amusement and exasperation. So. The girl you were supposedly spending time with. Yuta wanted to sink through the floor. Mom. Was she imaginary? Or did she conveniently vanish into thin air after you walked her home to another city? It wasn't look, I panicked, okay. Clearly. You were interrogating me. I was concerned. Same thing. Aiko raised an eyebrow. So you invented a romantic interest to throw me off? Yes. She stared at him. Then, despite everything, she laughed. You're terrible at lying, you know that. I'm aware. She shook her head, still smiling. You're lucky you're alive. Otherwise I'd kill you myself. Noted. The smile faded slightly. Yuta, next time you're in trouble, tell me. Don't lie. Don't hide. Just tell me. He nodded. Okay. Promise me. I promise. Aiko exhaled slowly, some of the tension leaving her shoulders. She opened her mouth to say something else. When a knock came from the door. Both of them turned. Two figures stepped in when the nurse slid the door open, a tall man in a dark coat and a shorter woman with sharp eyes and a notebook already in hand. Mr. Akutami, he said politely. I'm Detective Hoshino. This is Detective Tanabe. We'd like to ask you a few questions. Yuta's stomach sank. Aiko's face frowned. He just woke up, she said firmly. Can't this wait? Hoshino's expression remained neutral. Unfortunately, no. This is regarding an ongoing investigation. The sooner we speak with him, the better. Aiko's jaw set. He's barely stable. We'll be brief, Tanabe said. Her tone was softer, but no less insistent. And we can have medical staff present if needed. Yuta glanced at his mother. Then back at the detectives. It's fine, Mom. Yuta. I'll answer their questions. Aiko looked like she wanted to argue. But she didn't. She just squeezed his hand once more, then released it. I'm staying, she said flatly. Hoshino nodded. That's acceptable. They both pulled out notepads. Hoshino's eyes settled on Yuta. Let's start simple, he said. Can you tell us what happened 3 nights ago? Yuta swallowed. Here we go. He kept it short. Simple, and as clean as he could make it. He'd activated his quirk the moment the questions started, subtle adjustments to his vocal cords, his facial muscles, his breathing rhythm. Just enough to seem honest. Just enough to sell it. I slept past my stop, he said. Hinohara. Woke up in Machida instead. Hoshino scribbled something down. What time? Around 6. Maybe 6:10. And you didn't take the next train back. It wasn't coming for another 40 minutes. I was hungry, so I went to get food while I waited. Tanabe glanced up. Where? Restaurant near the station. I don't remember the name. She made a note. And that's when you encountered the girl. Yuta nodded. She was in an alley. Looked terrified. A man showed up right after. Can you describe him? Mid-30s. Brown hair. Wore gloves. A plague mask. Hoshino's pen paused. A plague mask. Yet. Like, Old-fashioned. Brown, I think. Tanabe and Hoshino exchanged a glance. What happened next? Hoshino asked. He said she was his daughter, Yuta continued. But she didn't look like she wanted to be there. She looked scared. Had bandages on. Most of all, she whispered for help. I thought they could be traffickers, and I couldn't just leave her, Yuta said. So I tried to talk. He didn't like that. Aiko's hand tightened on the armrest of her wheelchair. And the man attacked you, Tanabe said. Yet. Once he figured I wasn't going to just leave, he touched the ground. The pavement just exploded. Spikes. Walls. He had the ability to reshape the entire terrain. He enclosed the space and trapped us in. Hoshino's brow lifted slightly. That tracks with what we know of Kai Chisaki, he said. Quirk name, Overhaul. Capable of deconstructing and reconstructing matter through touch. Tanabe added, but the scale you're describing is unusual. Yuta shrugged weakly. He was angry. Aiko's grip tightened. And your quirk? Hoshino asked. Your file doesn't indicate combat capability on that level. Yuta met his gaze evenly. It's a new development. Haven't had time to update it. I see. Yet. I grabbed Eri. Ran. Dodged what I could. Thought if I could get to the main street with enough people, he'd back off. Yuta paused. But I couldn't escape. Then he touched me. Aiko flinched. Hoshino's expression didn't change. What happened when he touched you? Yuta's gaze dropped slightly. My body started breaking down. Like it was being pulled apart from the inside. But you survived. Barely. Yuta's voice was quieter now. My quirk gives me more control than I thought. I managed to keep my body together. Enough to not die instantly. Silence. Tanabe glanced at Hoshino. He looked back at Yuta. The kid's story checked out so far. They had seen the reports of his condition when he was brought to the hospital. The fact he was alive was a miracle of its own. Question. In that state, even if you survived, your body shouldn't have been able to fight back. Yuta met his gaze. I didn't fight back. I just survived. Then how did Chisaki die? Yuta paused. That means, he really did die. And here I thought I was seeing things. He groaned, while internally calculating what to say. This was it. The critical moment. I don't know, he said slowly. I was barely conscious. Everything was blurry. But I remember. He paused, as if trying to recall. I saw him get hit. Like something invisible attacked him before he could kill me. Then I saw someone at the other end of the alley. Hoshino straightened. Someone else was there. Yet. I think. It's hard to remember clearly. Can you describe them? Yuta frowned, as if struggling. Tall. Male, I think. Wore a mask. Covering the lower half of his face. White hair. And he touched the side of his eye. A scar. Here. On the left side. Tanabe was writing furiously. What did he do? I don't know. I passed out right after. Hoshino exchanged another look with Tanabe. Why would this person kill Chisaki but leave you alive? Yuta squinted his eyes at them. I just explained what my situation was like. Do you think I would know why? Maybe he was a vigilante. Maybe he thought I was already dead. My guess is as good as yours. Silence. Hoshino tapped his pen against his notepad. We'll need a sketch artist. Tanabe nodded. I'll call one in. 5 minutes later. The sketch artist, a middle-aged woman with sharp eyes and a tablet, sat beside the bed. Just describe what you remember, she said gently. Take your time. Yuta nodded. White hair. Messy. Spiky, maybe. She sketched quickly. The mask. Dark. Covered his nose and mouth. Like a ninja mask. Her stylus moved across the screen. The scar. Thin. Vertical. Over his left eye. She adjusted the lines. Anything else? Yuta hesitated. Slim facial features, I guess. Not this fat. She nodded, finishing the sketch. Then turned the tablet toward him. On the screen was a near-perfect recreation of Hitaki Kakashi. White hair. Mask. Scar over the left eye. Yuda's eyebrows twitched barely. He exhaled through his nose. Yeah, he said. That's him. Tanabe clicked her pen shut. Hoshino nodded. We'll pursue this lead immediately. If you remember anything else, anything at all, contact us immediately. Yuta nodded. I will. Not. They bowed politely. Thank you for your cooperation, Mr. Akutami, Hoshino said. We'll be in touch. They left. The door clicked shut. Silence. Aiko stared at Yuta. A masked vigilante. Yuta kept his expression neutral. That's what I saw. Aiko didn't look convinced. But she didn't push. Not yet. Yuta exhaled slowly, sinking back into the pillow. That was too close. But he'd done it. He'd sold the lie. Now he just had to hope they never found Kakashi. Chapter 18, Chapter 17. New Homes, New Problems 1. 3 more days passed in a blur of paperwork and bureaucracy. Police reports. Follow-up questions. Medical assessments. Detective Hoshino called twice. Both times, Yuta stuck to his story. Both times, the detective seemed satisfied, or at least, willing to move on. The investigations had commenced smoothly. Long story short, the Shihasaikai had collapsed. Without overhaul, the entire organization fell apart. Most of the high-ranking members vanished. Only a handful of low-level grunts were arrested, and none of them knew anything useful. Kai Chisaki was dead. And the case was quietly filed away. Yuta's part was listed as self-defense and left as that. No charges. No trial. Just a footnote in an investigation that would probably gather dust in some archive. The aftermath finally brought the boy some sense of relief. Thankfully, the worst was over. 3 days later, he was discharged from the hospital. His body still ached, every step reminded him of that, but he could move. He hailed a cab, and headed towards the location his mom had told him. 10 minutes later, he was here. Foster facility, late morning. The automatic doors slid open. Yuta stepped inside. The lobby smelled like disinfectant and crayons. A few kids' drawings were taped to the walls, stick figures holding hands, a son with a smiley face, a dog with 5 legs. The receptionist glanced up. Can I help you? I'm here to see Eri, Yuta said. I called ahead. She checked her computer. Akutami. Yet. 1 moment. She picked up the phone, spoke briefly, then hung up. Someone will be right with you. Yuta nodded and stepped aside. A minute later, a staff member appeared, middle-aged woman, kind eyes, tired smile. You're here for Eri. Yet. Follow me. They walked down a hallway. Doors on either side. Soft chatter behind some of them. More drawings on the walls. The woman stopped in front of a small door. She's inside. She's been asking for you. Yuta swallowed. Right. Thanks. He raised his hand to knock. The door opened from the inside. Eri stood there, blanket draped over her shoulders. Bare feet. Wide eyes. She stared at him for half a second. Then launched forward. Oof, hey, careful. Her arms locked around his waist as he let out a slight wince. It wasn't an act. His body still hurt, which was normal after surviving the equivalent of a shredder. The hug of a 6-year-old packed quite the force. Yuta froze. Then slowly placed a hand on her head. Hey, kid. There was no reply. Just trembling. Her forehead pressed against his shirt. Feeling his clothes growing wet, Yuta sighed. It's all right. I'm not dead yet. Eri didn't laugh. Her arms just tightened. The caretaker stood in the doorway, watching quietly. She hasn't spoken all morning, she whispered. Yuta nodded without looking up. Yet. I figured. He kept one hand on Eri's head until her shaking eased. When she finally loosened her grip just enough for him to breathe, he knelt down a little to meet her eyes. I'm here, he said softly. And I'm not going anywhere. Promise. Her eyes flicked up, searching his face like she was trying to confirm he was real. Okay, she whispered. It was barely a sound. But it was something. The caretaker stepped back. You can take her to the common room. Her guardian's already here. Guardian? Yuta echoed. The woman smiled. You'll see. Common room 20 minutes later. The room was small sofas, a TV on low volume, shelves full of worn-down toys. Eri sat pressed against his side, blanket tugged around her like armor. Across from them sat Aiko Akutami. It turns out, Eri's initial state was worse than he imagined, refusing to talk or open up to anyone. It wasn't until his mom volunteered that the girl began showing signs of normalcy. I should have expected as much. Yuta thought watching her. She had a cup of tea in her hands and a look that said she'd been waiting for this moment. Yuta. Mom. He answered, warily. She took a sip. I'm applying for emergency foster transfer. Yuta blinked. You're what? For a moment, he thought he heard wrong. Aiko gestured at Eri with the hand not holding her teacup. You nearly died for this child. I didn't die, Yuta muttered. You almost did. Almost doesn't count. Aiko raised an eyebrow. It counts to me. Eri curled closer at the word died, so Yuta stopped arguing on instinct. Aiko continued, calm and matter of fact. She trusts you. And she responds to me. That's more progress than she's shown with anyone else here. The caretaker standing by the door nodded. It's true. She barely ate until your mother arrived. Yuta looked between them. Okay, but adopting someone isn't something you just decide. Aiko didn't blink. I've decided more serious things with less information. That's not comforting. Before he could press further, another staff member walked in holding a clipboard. Mrs. Akutami, we prepared the preliminary forms you requested. Yuta's head whipped around so fast his neck popped. Forms? What forms? Why are there forms? Aiko accepted the clipboard with a polite smile. I asked for them while you were unconscious. You what? Eri flinched. Yuta instantly lowered his voice. Sorry. But you what? Aiko flipped the first page. Foster emergency transfers are faster than full adoption. With the proper screening and background checks already done. She shrugged. We're essentially skipping a few steps. Yuta stared at her. You researched this? Of course I did. While I was in the hospital. I had time. This is insane. Aiko ignored him and continued signing. The caretaker smiled sympathetically. Given the circumstances and Eri's attachment, the board is willing to expedite the process. Yuta rubbed his forehead. I wake up and there's a whole conspiracy. Not a conspiracy, Aiko corrected. A family decision. I didn't get to decide. You weren't awake. Whose fault is that? He felt something tug on his sleeve before he could utter a word. Yuta looked down. Eri was looking back. Staring at him with something that might have been hope. He sighed. Fine. It wasn't like he could do anything if he wanted to. Aiko smiled. Good answer. A little later. Once the paperwork discussion wrapped up and Eri was taken for a quick check-in with another caretaker, Yuta leaned back and exhaled. You really planned all this? Aiko shrugged. You brought home a traumatized child once before. I assumed you'd eventually do it again. This is not the same as that stray cat. Debatable. Before Yuta could protest, a phone buzzed. The staff member checked it, nodded to them, then said. UA personnel are waiting for you at the front. Yuta blinked. Why? You were discharged today, correct? They said they're handling follow-up medical support. His stomach dropped. Oh no. UA infirmary afternoon. He hadn't been back on campus for 10 minutes before recovery girl was hovering over him with her cane like she was inspecting a faulty machine. Terrible condition, she muttered. Bonk. She tapped his forehead. Terrible. I literally just got out of the hospital, Yuta said. Barely. Bonk. Hold still. Aizawa leaned against the wall, arms crossed, eye bags extra prominent. Tsukachi stood nearby taking notes. Nizu sat on a stool, swinging his legs serenely. What an interesting child you are, Nizu said. That sentence troubles me, sir. Hold still. She kissed his forehead. Exhaustion crashed into him. TCH. Your vitality is strange. It's healing, but not normally. Your quirk's doing something I can't fully account for. She tapped her cane. Don't run. Don't lift. Don't train. Don't be stupid. Doctor's orders. Can we define stupid? Anything you'd normally do? Yuta squinted. I feel targeted. Aizawa nodded. After what you've done? I believe that is accurate. Tsukachi flipped a page in his notebook. Your statement's been archived. Self-defense claim is valid. No evidence ties you to Overhaul's death. Yuta kept his face blank. Nizu's smile sharpened. Though your story does have an interesting footnote. Which is? The mystery vigilante. Nizu steepled his paws. White hair. Mask. Scar over the left eye. Quite the description. That was the sketch artist, not me, Yuta deadpanned. Nizu smiled warmly. Too warmly. We'll investigate. But as far as you're concerned, you're clear. That's good to know. Good. However, do know that there are 7 days left until the sports festival. If you're not fully healed by then, you're not participating. Yuta's face sank. Nizu hopped off the stool. Oh, one more thing. You'll be attending counseling sessions for trauma processing. Your mother already agreed. Yuta covered his face. Evening outside the foster facility. The sky was turning violet. Eri held his sleeve with both hands. Aiko waited beside her wheelchair, a blanket pulled over her legs. Come, she said. Let's go home. Eri hesitated. Yuta crouched slightly. Hey. You're coming with us. Just for now. All right. Eri's eyes lifted. Okay. Soft. But steady. Yuta felt something in his chest loosen. They boarded the taxi waiting for them. Aiko cleared her throat. Seat belts. Both of you. If you tear open anything again, I will tape you to a bed. Mom. Seat belt. Yes ma'am. Enjoying the story? Want to read ahead? Support the novel and unlock early access to unreleased chapters by joining my Patreon. Droplet Water tier, $5, read 3 chapters ahead of public releases. Earth tier, $7, read 5 chapters ahead, with bonus lore, author notes, and behind-the-scenes content. Fire tier, $10, read 8 chapters ahead, get full access to all extras, and vote in exclusive polls for bonus content. Paperclip patreon.com/future805. Even a small pledge makes a huge difference. Thank you for reading. Comment. 22 comment. Vote. Chapter 19, Chapter 18 New Home, New Problems 2. Akudamai Residence Evening. The front door clicked open. Yuta stepped inside first, rubbing the back of his neck with a WinCE. Recovery Girl's quirk was a lifesaver, though that didn't fully ease his body's discomfort despite being completely fine on the outside. I should technically be fine now. What's going on? Eri peeked from behind him, blanket around her shoulders like a cape. Aiko followed last, keys in hand. Shoes off, she said automatically. I know, Yuta muttered, bending down slowly. Aiko sighed. You're moving like a pensioner. I'll be fine. Just need to sleep it off. Eri copied him, taking her shoes off with tiny, careful movements. When she finished, she looked up as if waiting for approval. You did great, Yuta said. She blinked, then nodded once. Aiko smiled and patted her head before rolling her wheelchair ahead. Eri, sweetheart, your temporary room is this way. Eri stayed close to Yuta instead, gripping the hem of his hoodie like a lifeline. Aiko glanced back. Or you can follow him. Both are fine. Yuta whispered down to her, it's okay. Just the room. I'll be right there. Eri hesitated, then whispered something barely audible. Come too. Yuta froze. Aiko mouthed a silent ah. I'm coming, Yuta said in a softer tone than intended. Eri finally let go of his hoodie barely and walked toward the hallway with tiny, cautious steps. He walked beside Aiko. She leaned in and whispered, You're good with her. Mom, please, my heart is already malfunctioning. He helped push his mom towards Eri's temporary quarters. The room was small but warm, fresh sheets, soft lighting, a set of plus-size Aiko had bought within the last 24 hours. Just when did you find the time to do all this? Yuta asked, mouth agape. Aiko smiled but didn't answer. Eri stepped inside. Her bright eyes examining the surroundings, then stopped like she didn't know what to do with the space. Her posture shrank. The blanket tightened around her shoulders. Both mother and son had their faces fall. Well, no one said adjusting was going to be easy. Aiko gave him a look, gesturing with her head. Yuta sighed. Nevertheless, he moved forward and knelt beside her, not too close, not too far. It's yours for now, he said. You can change anything later if you want. Eri stared at the bed like it was a puzzle. Aiko came in behind them. Do you want to sit? Eri didn't move. So Yuta sat on the bed first. Eri followed immediately. Aiko watched this and sighed again, softer. Poor child. Then rolled her wheelchair around. All right. I'll get dinner started. Yuta, stay with her. You're not allowed to do anything strenuous anyway. What, am I in charge of emotional support duty? Yes. That wasn't a question, was it? No. Yuta slumped. Understood. He wasn't planning on running laps anyway. Silence settled after she left. Enough to make it somewhat awkward. What do I say? He thought, clueless. He wasn't really bad with children interactions. However, Eri was a special case. What could he do? Give her an All Might plus Ultra Impact video game? Or introduce her to checkers or something? Does it hurt? Thankfully, Eri spoke first. With Aiko gone, the girl had visibly relaxed under his gaze. Yuta blinked. Does what hurt? What happened to you? He hesitated. Then exhaled. A little. But it'll go away. She nodded, eyes fixed on her feet. I'm glad you didn't go away. The thought lingered longer than he would have liked. He probably wasn't the first person Overhaul had deconstructed before her. Just the first person to survive it. He reached out, ruffled her hair lightly. Yet. Me too. Was this main character syndrome? Come to think of it, his life had been pretty unremarkable before memory awakening. The highlight of the past 15 years was his mom's accident at Stain's hands. Yet just a week after, he would experience all this. I better not be in some. He paused, then sighed and put the thought behind him. For a moment, nothing else mattered: the forms, the sports festival, the investigation, the counseling sessions, Stain. Just this tiny kid leaning against him like he was the safest thing in the world. It felt good. Aiko peeked from the kitchen. Her eyes softened. This, she decided, was the right choice. A little later, dinner. Dinner was quiet. Eri ate slowly, careful, as if unsure she was allowed to enjoy food. Aiko kept refilling her bowl before she even had to ask. Yuta kept distracting her with dumb commentary. Mom, why does your soup taste like it has trauma processing mixed in? Aiko whacked him with a ladle. Small bites, Aiko instructed. You too. Both of you. I'm literally injured, not 6, Yuta said. Then act like it. Eri giggled just barely. Yuta blinked at her. Did you just laugh at my suffering? The girl lowered her head, saying nothing. Aiko smiled into her teacup. All right, let's get a few things done straight. Orientation. Eri, welcome to the family. She paused. Now Eri, let's set a few rules down. Rule 1, we eat dinner together. Rule 2, if Yuta attempts anything reckless, you must report him immediately. Don't cover up for him. Rule 3. Mom, what is this? Rule 3, bedtime is at 8:30 sharp unless you are bleeding. Yuta, talking to you. Mom. By the way. You're grounded. What? You think I've forgotten about the stunt you pulled? You nearly gave me a heart attack. Not just grounded. No video games, no cartoons. No TV privileges, no magazines. But I saved Eri. No buts. I don't care how noble your cause was. Every action has consequences. You'll just have to deal with it. Eri watched the exchange with wide eyes. Finally. So this is my life now, hey. Yuta leaned against the chair, eyes dull like the world had lost all meaning. Aiko's voice came from behind him. Yes. Try not to ruin it again. Yuta snorted. Eri lowered her head, seemingly in thought. With the warm atmosphere, the dinner proceeded smoothly after that. 30 minutes later, Eri was asleep. Yuta stood in the hallway, one hand on the doorframe of Eri's room. She'd finally tuckered herself out, blanket tucked under her chin, holding a rabbit plush like it was a shield. Aiko approached quietly. She likes you, she murmured. She's a kid, Mom. Kids don't have great taste. Aiko sighed, then elbowed him. He winced. Stop trying to joke your way out of this. Did you have to do that? You've proven you need sense knocked into you every once in a while. She admonished, eyes never leaving Eri. I haven't seen a kid quite like her. She's scared, and scarred. Those won't go away easily. Yet, Yuta said. I know. Aiko studied him. And you? Yuta hesitated. I'll be fine. Aiko didn't believe him. But she nodded anyway. Good. Now get some rest. You have counseling tomorrow. Yuta groaned. Yuta groaned. Can we not? No. Oh, and Yuta. Yes. If you ever scare me like that again, I am grounding you until graduation. Love you too, Mom. She rolled away. The lights of the Akudamai home were put out for the night. Yuta closed the door to his room, he flicked the light on and dropped onto his bed face first. What a day! Foster care paperwork. Recovery girl checkups. Eri. To think he had been in the hospital for nearly a whole week. I'm gonna have so much homework to catch up on. He rolled onto his back and stared at the ceiling. The sports festival was in 7 days, and he would probably have a lot to catch up on. I'll just ask Hannah to lend me her. He paused. Suddenly remembering, I have friends. 6 days, he thought. I haven't messaged Hannah or Kimura or Tanaka in 6 days. He reached for his phone. His hand stopped mid-air. Right. He didn't have a phone anymore. It was destroyed during the fight with Overhaul. Crushed. Probably sitting in an evidence locker somewhere, or incinerated with the rest of the crime scene debris. Great. He rubbed his face. I'll have to get a new one tomorrow. Explain why I ghosted them for a week. Hope they don't think I'm dead. He exhaled before getting into bed. Time elapsed. By the time it was midnight, Yuta still hadn't been able to fall asleep. Just what the hell is going on? He stood up. Something felt wrong. At first, he attributed it to his body unwilling to continue lying down after 3 days of doing nothing, but that clearly wasn't it. He rolled his shoulders. Stretched his arms. Tested his legs. Externally, everything seemed fine. Recovery girl had healed the major damage. His quirk had reconstructed the rest. But internally, something was still wrong. What is it? He closed his eyes and focused. Chakra pathways. He could feel them faintly like a network of threads running through his body. But something was off. He activated his Sharingan. The world sharpened. He turned his focus inward. And froze. His chakra pathways were visible now, glowing faintly beneath his skin like veins of light. But they weren't smooth. They were frayed. Strained. Damaged. Like someone had forced too much pressure through a pipe that wasn't built to handle it. What the hell? He traced the damage mentally. It was worst near his core where his chakra reserves were stored. The pathways leading outward were cracked. Stressed. Barely holding together. This is from the Mangekyo. He realized it immediately. When he awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan against Overhaul, he'd forced out chakra he didn't have. His body hadn't been ready. His reserves hadn't been deep enough. And his pathways had paid the price. So that's why I still feel like crap. Recovery girl had healed his physical injuries. But this? This was something else entirely. Chakra pathway damage wasn't something conventional medicine could fix. Can I even fix this? He deactivated the Sharingan and sat back down. His chakra reserves had increased, that much was obvious. The near-death experience had pushed him past a threshold. But his pathways were damaged. Which meant using chakra, especially large amounts, would hurt. A lot. And I have 7 days to figure this out before the sports festival. He lay back and stared at the ceiling. Well. He exhaled slowly. That sucks. Chapter 20, Chapter 19. Back to normal, kinda. Akudamai apartment, early morning. Yuta woke to the faint sound of footsteps in the hallway. Hey! He rose, and saw a figure at the door. Not his mother's wheelchair. Eri. He found the girl standing by his doorway, blanket wrapped around her shoulders, clutching the rabbit plush. She didn't move. Didn't say anything. Just stood there, watching him like she needed to confirm he was still there. Yuta blinked the sleep from his eyes. Morning, he said quietly. Eri flinched slightly but didn't leave. He sat up slowly, careful not to make any sudden movements. Can't sleep. She shook her head. Nightmare. A pause. Then a small nod. Yuta exhaled softly and patted the edge of his bed. Come here. She hesitated. Then walked forward, stopping just at the bedside. Yuta shifted over slightly, making space. You can sit if you want. Just for a bit. Eri climbed up carefully, sitting cross-legged at the far end of the bed, blanket pulled tight around her. They sat in silence for a moment. You're okay? She whispered finally. Yeah. I'm okay. I'm better now. The silence continued. Do you want to talk about the thing? Eri went silent for a moment. I saw him. Yab. Just as he expected. The best-case scenario had unfortunately been avoided, with Eri having nightmares of overhaul. It's okay. He's not here anymore. He can't hurt you. But what if I hurt you? Her eyes dropped to her lap. People get hurt because of me. Yuta's chest tightened. That's not true. It is. Eri. He said so. Every time. He. Yuta's frown deepened. Damn you, Chisaki. He was wrong. Eri shook her head. Listen to me. Yuta waited until she looked up. You're not cursed. You're not a problem. And you didn't make me do anything. I chose to help you. That's on me. Not you. Her lip trembled. But. No buts. He kept his tone firm but gentle. You're a kid. Kids aren't supposed to carry that kind of weight. Adults are. And I'm, well, not quite an adult yet, but close enough. Eri stared at him. Then, very slowly, she scooted a little closer. Not all the way. Just enough. Yuta didn't push. Okay, she whispered. Okay. They sat like that until Aiko's voice echoed from the kitchen. Breakfast. Both of you. Eri jumped slightly. Yuta stood and stretched, testing his body. Come on, he said. Mom's cooking is actually good. Don't tell her I said that. Dining table 10 minutes later. The table was set with miso soup, rice, grilled fish, and vegetables. Yuta sat down carefully. Eri sat beside him. Aiko rolled up to the table. Eat, she said, placing bowls in front of them. You need your strength. I'm fine, Mom. Don't try that with me. I'm not buying it. I feel better than I look. That's not saying much. Yuta took his chopsticks. Eri didn't move. She looked at the food. Looked at Aiko. Looked at Yuta. Then whispered. I don't have to finish everything, right? Aiko's heart cracked so loud Yuta heard it. No, sweetie, Aiko said gently. Eat as much as you want. No one will punish you here. Eri nodded, slow and careful. She inched forward, picked up a piece of egg like it might explode, and started eating in tiny, quiet bites. Yuta sighed internally. This is gonna be a long road. The TV in the corner was on low volume, morning news. Yuta wasn't paying attention until a familiar word caught his ear. Shihasai Kai organization dismantled following the death of its leader, Kai Chisaki, also known as Overhaul. Authorities report that most high-ranking members have disappeared, with only a handful of low-level operatives in custody. The incident, which occurred in Machida, left one unidentified victim hospitalized in critical condition. Police are still investigating. Yuta's chopsticks froze mid-air. Eri went very still. Aiko reached over and turned the TV off. Silence. They didn't say my name, Yuta said quietly. No, Aiko confirmed. The Hero Public Safety Commission requested it be kept quiet. Principal Nizu agreed. Your identity is sealed. Yuta exhaled slowly. Why? Because you're a minor. And a UA student. It's best to keep you away from attention. Attention that could possibly ruin your life. She glanced at Eri. And it protects her too. Eri's hands tightened around her chopsticks. Yuta set his bowl down. Thanks. Aiko nodded. Now eat. You're going back to school today, and I don't want you collapsing in the hallway. I'm not gonna collapse. I'll believe it when I see it. Eri looked between them, then quietly resumed eating. UA. General Studies Building Morning. Yuta stepped through the doors of Class 1D and immediately regretted it. Not because of his body he felt okay, all things considered. But because the moment he walked into the General Studies building, 3 people materialized out of nowhere. Yuta. Hannah sprinted toward him like a homing missile. Oh no. She skidded to a stop inches away, eyes wide. You're alive. Yet. We thought you died. I didn't die. Kimura appeared beside her, arms crossed. You were gone for a week. No messages. No calls. Nothing. My phone got destroyed. Tanaka adjusted his glasses. Destroyed how? Yuta paused. Accident. What kind of accident? The destructive kind. Hannah grabbed his shoulders. Are you okay? Like actually okay? Because you look okay but you also look like you haven't slept in 3 days. Don't worry about it. I've looked worse. Kimura squinted at him. What happened? You were in the hospital for several days. Yuta sighed. Can we not do this right now? Before they could respond, Mrs. Nakamura appeared in the doorway. Akutami, she said flatly. He straightened immediately. Ma'am. She studied him for a moment. You look better than I expected. Thanks. Sit down before you fall over. I'm not gonna. Sit. He sat. Mrs. Nakamura turned to the rest of the class, who were all staring. Before homeroom begins, I want everyone to know that Akutami is recovering from an injury he was previously hospitalized for. He's recovered enough to attend class. No one is to bother him about it unless he brings it up himself. Understood. A chorus of murmured agreements. She glanced back at Yuta. If you need to leave early, let me know. I'm fine. That wasn't a question. If you feel dizzy at any time, go to the nurse. Hannah gasped dramatically. He gets out of classes? Lucky. Yuta glared. Switch bodies with me, then. No thanks. Nakamura sighed. Everyone sit. And please don't pester him about his injuries. 3 hands shot up immediately. Tanaka, can we pester him a little? No. Akutami apartment same morning. Aiko found Eri standing in the hallway. Not doing anything. Just standing. Still. Silent. Sweetie. Aiko softened her voice. Do you need something? Eri hesitated. Where's Yuta? He went to school, Aiko said gently. He'll be back this afternoon. Eri looked down. Like the words hit her physically. Aiko stepped closer. Do you want to wait in the living room with me? Eri nodded. But when she followed Aiko, she walked close. Not holding her hand. Then she sat quietly without complaint as the hours went by. Aiko smiled sadly. Poor child, how much fear is she carrying? League hideout afternoon. The bar was quiet, lit only by the flickering neon sign humming outside. Kurogiri polished a glass out of habit, even though no customers had ever crossed this counter for legitimate reasons. Shigaraki sat hunched in a booth, hood up, new scratches on his neck. His voice had the brittle tone of someone who had spent a week losing sleep. Where is he? He muttered. If this guy wastes my time, I'll decay his shoes first, then his ankles. Kurogiri tilted his head. He will be here soon. Jiren said he found someone, unique. Unique better mean useful, Shigaraki said. We can't afford another bunch of rejects. As if summoned by irritation, the door slid open. Jiren walked in first loose tie, cigarette in mouth, eyes half open like he hadn't slept in a week. Behind him walked a wall of muscle that couldn't quite fit through the doorway. Kurogiri nodded politely. Welcome. Shigaraki on the other hand, wasn't. Kurogiri speaks highly of you. This better not be a waste of time. Yet, Jiren exhaled smoke. This is Kendo Rappa. Ex-Hasaikai. Ex-Hitman. Ex-everything. No hobbies besides hospitalizing people. Rappa stepped fully into the room, boots heavy against the wooden floor. He didn't look impressed. Or intimidated. Or interested. Mostly, he looked bored. Shigaraki stared at him from the booth, tapping his fingers against the table 4 at first, then all 5 before he caught himself. He's big, Shigaraki muttered. Kurogiri hummed. Astute. Rappa's eyes narrowed. This is it. The League of Villains. Jiren coughed into his hand. He doesn't mean that as an insult. Probably. Shigaraki's head tilted slowly. Is he stupid? Rappa shrugged. I'm not here for a lecture. I came for one thing. He pointed at Shigaraki. A fight. There was a long, still silence. Jiren pinched the bridge of his nose. I told you not to start with that. I fight people, Rappa said. That's what I do. If he's the boss, I wanna see whether he's worth listening to. Kurogiri folded his hands politely. You cannot fight him. Why not? Because he will kill you. Shigaraki didn't deny it. He wasn't posturing either, just annoyed. I don't fight for fun. I fight to break things. Rappa snorted. Weak excuse. Shigaraki stood, scratching at a patch of skin on his neck. We're done here. Tamura, Kurogiri said gently. Hear Jiren out. Shigaraki glared but sat back down. Jiren flicked ash into an empty glass and sighed. Let me make this simple before you two try to stare each other to death. He tapped his cigarette twice against the counter. Rappa here was part of a Yakuza branch that's well gone now. Collapsed practically overnight. Shigaraki blinked. Yakuza? They still exist. Barely, Jiren said. This one was called the Shihasaikai. Ever heard of them? Shigaraki shook his head. Exactly. Underground. Traditional old ways. Strict hierarchy. Lots of rules. Lots of kneeling. He jutted a thumb toward Rappa. And this guy was one of their top enforcers. Muscle for hire and packs quite a mean punch. Useful tool, don't you think? Rappa squinted. I'm not a tool. Shigaraki stared at him with a blank, unreadable expression. I mean, you kind of look like one. Rappa cracked all 10 knuckles at once. Jiren quickly stepped between them. Okay. Moving on. He continued. Point is Chisaki's dead. Their compound's gone. Their men are scattered. And Rappa, well. He gestures at the man towering over them. He's got nothing to do and way too much energy. Rappa crossed his arms. I said it already. I want fights. Real ones. Not staged matches. Not holding back for the boss's plans. If your group can give me that, I'll stick around. Shigaraki rubbed his thumb against his neck. So you don't care about our mission? Nope. You don't care what we do? Nope. You don't care about money? Rappa growled. Do I look like I care about money? Shigaraki opened his mouth, closed it, then muttered. No. Jiren shrugged. He's a simple investment. High return. No cost. Shigaraki finally leaned forward, elbows on the table. You'll listen to me. As long as you don't bore me. Shigaraki stared. Rappa stared back. It was like watching a chihuahua try to intimidate a Rottweiler. Unsuccessfully. Kurogiri cleared his throat. Tamura. With the failure to kill All Might and our underlings captured, we do lack manpower. You wouldn't want to find yourself in a similar situation like the last time, right? Tamura paused. Last time. That was the U.S.J attack. His army of villains, beaten by a couple of beats wet between the ears. Ugh. Yet. We wouldn't want a repeat of that. Shigaraki looked between them Jiren, Kurogiri, then up at Rappa. Fine. But if you get in my way. I won't, Rappa interrupted. Just point me at strong people. Shigaraki tapped the table. And if I order you not to fight? Rappa paused. Depends. Is the reason stupid? Shigaraki's eye twitched violently. Kurogiri placed a calming hand on his shoulder. Tamura. Think of him as a living battering ram. Yet. With limited brain cells. Shigaraki said irritably. Whatever. Let's just get this over with. Perfect. A genuinely happy smile graced Jiren's features. I'll be expecting that finder's fee. It's nice doing business with ye. He turned around and headed for the door. Kurogiri inclined his head. Welcome to the League of Villains. Mr. Rappa. Rap rolled his shoulders, satisfied. Good. When do we start? Shigaraki didn't miss a beat. When we find someone annoying enough for you to punch. Rappa grinned. Perfect.
Thanks for listening.